Oh, there it is. Oh man, this is the opportunity. This is who I've been all been waiting for. But okay, I don't know. I don't know how you feel about sarcastic jokes. I have a really quippy, self-referential style of humor. But hell yeah, how have you been?
I've been doing good. You?
Fine, I guess. Aside from all of my crippling health issues, because God has decided that all because you're 30 doesn't mean you shouldn't live like an old man. So we're going to try to destroy you as much as possible. You need to be wiped off this earth. So aside from all that, I've been doing pretty good.
Are you recording this, by the way? I don't care if you are. I just didn't know, so I don't. So I should be careful with what I say or something.
Oh yeah, I figured the Simpsons. Oh, we gotta hear the waifu interview, but it's like I told the guys it's like this isn't gonna be some like weird takedown video if that's what you're expecting, because I figured what this conversation could lead to, like the best possible outcome is just to kind of give you a platform to really air out your grievances and basically hear your side of the story is what I want to hear because I think a lot of the tension between you and the sim cells comes from like a misunderstanding of like the difference in like political views and intentions and stuff like that. I apologize if that sounds rambly and incoherent, but basically what I'm trying to say is that I think there's some nuances to our positions that could be cleared up if you're actually given the opportunity to discuss those things. So I figured instead of just having everyone shit on Anna like she just did something super fucking horrible, why don't we just hear her out? So I figured this is the best opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it, man. It's really nice to actually have a conversation like this because there's not a lot of people who would do this, you know. So that's why I said no beef. I'm one of those people where it's like I want to talk about everything because I'm just one of those people. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I want to please everybody so I don't get into drama. No, it's just unnecessary. I guess back and forth with people just never does good. So yeah, I think it's great to do this. And the only reason I ask is that if you're recording, because I don't want to say something about Jews and get demonetized. But
Yeah, I know that.
those big schnozzes on YouTube.
It would be easier to upload it on YouTube for everybody to see that, but I don't necessarily have to do that. I could just had just streamed it directly to them. But I'll keep that in mind when I'm uploading it. It was like like, we did talk about this or we talked about that. It's like, oh man, how do I address that? But since you brought up big snozzes, and I guess I'll start off asking you questions about about that. So would you consider yourself JQ'd then?
No, uh, I think the meme is really funny, but I really wouldn't consider myself like anti-Jew or something like that. I just think the memes are funny, and to some degree, I do think there is certain evidence that Jews have control over certain things, but I don't think it's this like big 4chan conspiracy theory where all the Jews are in control of everything. I think that's a little dumb. But everybody can have their own opinions. Everybody can have their own, I guess, political thoughts, even if I don't agree with it. But no, I wouldn't really consider myself anti-Jew, if that's a term. Anti-Semitic, I guess that's what the term is. But no, I would not consider myself in that area at all. But anyone can have their own opinions. I used to be friends with a 4chaner, flat earthers and all that stuff.
Flat earthers. Flat earthers, really?
There's a lot of flat earthers on 4chan, man. Like it's pretty hilarious. And a funny story recently is that I was talking with my mysterious man, if you want to call him that, and we had a 2-hour debate over if you turn the Earth over, like upside down, would gravity change? And he was just like, no, gravity wouldn't change. Why would you flip New York over? Why would it be upside down? That doesn't make any sense. I said, well, just think about it. You take the part of New York and you just turn the Earth, flip it over, everything be upside down. And we had a 2-hour debate over that. And he said, this sounds like something on fucking 4chan. What is wrong with you? And I said, well, I, Like I said, God never said women are smart. But yeah, that was a
So,
pretty funny 4chan debate.
so were you the one arguing about like gravity would change if you flip the Earth over?
Yeah, I was. 'Cause I don't know why I came up with it. I just made a. All I said was is that if you flip the Earth over, we would all fall over and like everything be upside down. And we had a 2 hour debate over whether that's true or not. And obviously he was like, "No, that's stupid." And I was like, "Nah, man, come on, just think about it."
But so for order for that to work, because we know that the Earth is spherical, right?
Right.
So for in order for this theory to work, the force of gravity would have to be universal across like the entirety of space. Like imagine like space is like the planet, right? And like the gravity affects the entirety of space. So there is no such thing as gravitational pull. So then if you flip the Earth over in that context, the gravity would like not change. Like you would fall off of the Earth because the gravity doesn't shift towards the planet, it shifts towards the space around the planet that all the planets are in. Like if you have like let's say you have a box and you have like tables or whatever inside that box, if you flip it over, everything on the table is going to flip over because the center of gravity isn't based inside of the box, it's based inside the space around the box. So that's the only way that would make any sense.
And you know what? I don't actually believe this. I was just like fucking with him, right? And I kept going along with it. And I said, "Dude, why are you so passionate about this?" And he said, "I don't know. It's so dumb. I can't stop arguing with you about it." So we literally, for 2 to 3 hours, debated about it. And it was just a huge troll. And he fell right into it. And it was really funny. And we still debate about it to this day. I actually went to Walmart recently and I grabbed a globe and I videotaped. I said, "Look, dude, see, I turned the Earth over. Look, America's on the other side. You don't think anything would happen?" And then we argued about it again. So
Well, at least you're able to have funny conversations like that. That sounds entertaining.
it was really funny.
Oh man, flat earthers. I've yet to encounter flat earthers. I've met some pretty weird people through Discord though, like some guy who unironically believed in witchcraft and tried to curse me because I said something about a video game he didn't like. This is all true, by the way. I know it sounds like I'm making it the fuck up, but like that, I've had some really weird shit happen to me on Discord. Oh man, you just meet the craziest people.
You do. It's insane. Like, yeah, I've met like one flat earther in my entire life, and I thought he was messing with me, but he was actually giving me like all these videos and stuff. He's like, see, it's real, it's true, it's true." And I'm just like, okay, like I just went along with it because I don't feel like arguing about flat Earth to somebody. So I was like, okay, whatever, man, sure.
Oh man,
Uh,
so that reminds me about the whole JQ thing. So we can confirm that you think there might be some truth to it, but it's not like this big grand conspiracy, which is kind of where I lean more towards too. I feel like a lot of people the whole Jewish thing as a scapegoat. I know some of the Simpsons probably aren't gonna enjoy me saying that, but I just gotta speak the truth, man. I see way too many people who are massives, as certain people would call them, people who are actually just gay, right? And they use this whole Jewish conspiracy thing as like a LARP, basically, for themselves because what I notice is that a certain type of person is the one that tends to get involved in this type of conspiratorial thinking. Now, how many of the synth streams, like how regularly do you watch synth?
uh, well, his videos wise, I watch every single video, but stream wise, uh, it's it's not that I don't find them entertaining. It's just that I don't like live streams very much because they just get kind of boring. But I do chip into his streams here and there, and I do watch this YouTube channel called George the Gunwalker, and I watch a lot of the stream clips from there, and they're really funny. I think Synthetic Man's insane sometimes, which is why I think he needs to make a try not to laugh challenge.
Oh man, I mean, I'm not gonna not gonna deny that the simpler tends to say some pretty weird stuff, especially all the capping about Fuda. I did
Mm.
make sure to mention that in the video I made too. Is that this? I do generally feel like maybe the constant buck breaking plays a part in this. Like, I don't know. It's like, he was a coal burner, and then all of a sudden he's in the food. That pipeline doesn't seem normal, and then you want to tell me like Jews did it? Like, I don't know, man. But that seems a little weird. But
And that's it's just quick thing right here that's funny to me because there's a clip online like 2 years ago where he looked at a stream chat. He was playing Forspoken, and there was this one dude actually talking about Fuda in the chat, and Synthetic Man was like, "Oh, are you accusing me of liking Fuda? Oh, are you freaking Zoomer?" And then like a year later, yeah, guys, I'm into chicks with dicks, and I'm just like, okay,
oh
well,
wait, I didn't know. So someone accused him of liking Fuda before he came out and admitted to
yeah,
liking.
yeah. And he said to that person, "Oh, how could you say that? How could you accuse me of being Fuda?" And then, like a year later, he turned out to be a Fudacon, and I'm just like, "Bro, you were hiding this for years."
Not
Like,
not very well. If someone had already accused him of that, I didn't know he'd been accused of that because I was in the stream where he admitted to that, but I didn't know that people had already accused him of that prior to that. I had no idea. So
'cause I think it started off as like a joke, like an actual joke, and then he was just like, "Well, I guess I should actually reveal it to my audience." And then someone actually asked him, "Are you into dick or balls?" And he said, "More like balls." And I'm just like,
oh man.
"Okay,
Oh, see,
okay."
like I meant what I said. You don't want to underestimate how many Simpsons are actually just gay. Like, oh man. Look, I'm not gonna put the guy on blast here, but the Simpsons, they know where I'm talking about. A particular fan of a particular show back in the day got outed for doing like a gay playing or something, and I'm just kind of like, so wait a minute, how many of the people in this Discord are actually just gay? Hold on, right? Cause we're talking about Jews and Ubermensch, and turns out everyone's just gay. Like, this is it's so a lot of it is just LARPing to me as far as I'm concerned, which is actually a little concerning in a different type of way because like I was alluding to earlier, a certain type of person is the type of people that get involved with this kind of stuff. Now, so you said you like George, the Gunwalker. Have you ever had like any like real interactions with George?
No, no, I don't. And I actually laughed. Like I actually liked your video, by the way. I'm one of those people where it's like if someone shits on me, I just think it's funny. But I was watching your video and you said, "Is this mysterious man George the Gunwalker?" I said, "I never even talked to the dude in my entire life except for maybe a few comments under my YouTube chat." I mean, that's like I just watched some of his videos and he's like the only Synthetic Man fan. Aside from maybe Angel, whoever that guy was the only one who stood behind me even after my decision to leave the community. So that's why I still recommend him. But no, I never had a real interaction with him at all.
Yeah, because I ask because like George did try to get like a whole bunch of national socialists and stuff into the server at one point way back when, and was trying to make like inflammatory statements and stuff, and had to get him to chill out. And he's also kind of like tangentially the reason I ended up getting demodded in the first place because he got me in trouble with Carl Sama, who's also a National Socialist. If you remember Carl,
Oh yeah, Carl Sama, yeah, I remember him.
yeah. So National Socialism. You could argue that that's just white nationalism with extra steps. The more you read into it, I don't know how familiar are you with National Socialism?
I'm not too big into it because I'm not a huge fan of the system. I mean, I get the gist of what it is, but no, I'm not really heavily into like socialistic like ideologies or people who are into that. That's just not my thing, personally. But I I already got vibes from Carl Sama that he's a giant Nazi just by how his character looks. But he beat to his own drum. It's cool. I think Nazis are cool.
You think Nazis are cool?
Sorry. Hey, they got cool fashion. I
Uh,
like the uniforms.
I mean, okay, I guess in terms of aesthetics, I mean that's just more LARPing. I'm gonna LARP as a Nazi. It's like that's literally just being a poser. It's like I don't actually hate Jews. I'm not actually racist. I'm just here for the fashion. Like, okay, sure. Oh man,
I like that. Yeah, guys, I'm not racist. I just like the fashion. I swear.
oh man, JLR George Lincoln Rockwell is rolling in his grave.
Hitler's probably like, oh god,
Yeah, but
don't put her in my circle.
yeah, I don't necessarily think like George is a bad guy or anything. I know he tried to get me to like do art for Synth by telling him it's like, oh, he's open for commissions, and like Synth was talking about like, oh, he can like contact me through my email or something. But the reason I didn't go through with that is because I never asked to do that, and like I just thought it was weird that George was trying to like start something without my permission, basically, because like going back to the whole like Carl situation, what had happened initially is this Carl is really anti prawn, and that's fine. It's not like prawn is particularly good for your health or anything, but he was like upset about it to an autistic degree, and he was just like, oh, screw minute, delete that, delete it. And I ended up deleting it basically because like the way he was wording it is like, I don't really know this guy like that, so I don't know how much of this should be taken as a threat or not. So it's like, well, if it means that Minute doesn't get labeled a pedo or something, I mean, if it protects everybody else, then just getting rid of these is pretty easy to do, and Minute can just remake it if he has a problem with it afterwards. So I have to just make that executive decision, right? But the only reason why I even got into that type of situation in the first place is because George started talking about some hentai character that we both enjoy in the chat, and he asked Carl like, "What do you think about the character Casey?" And he's just like, "What are you talking about?" And and I'm in the call talking to Carl when it's happening, and once like Carl realized we were talking about like Coomer shit, he started freaking out about it, and I'm just like, George, what the hell did you just do? And then George was one of the people egging me on to like, yeah, delete it. Oh, he's pissing me off because he doesn't want to delete it, because like I didn't want to just do it without Minute's permission. That's what got me demoted, is because I did it without his permission. He said I should have asked him first, but I didn't want to wait until like Carl just took a whole bunch of screenshots and it's like, all right, I'm gonna take down the Winehouse server because now I have all this evidence against him. It's like I just gotta shut this shit down before it gets really bad. But it's like, because like, so like George will do stuff like set stuff up like that. Basically, is like I almost feel like he knew Carl was gonna react that way, and I'm also in George's server. It kind of just feels like he clowns on Synth, which that's fine. I'm not so devoted to the church of Synthler, where it's like, oh, how dare anyone make fun
How
of my
dare you?
Fuhrer.
How dare you make fun of our next Hitler?
Right, and our next Hitler who lives in his mother's basement playing buck breakers for 8 hours a day.
And he
That's
likes Fuda.
he likes food. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. So this is what I mean by like it's LARPing, right? Like that's not gonna change anything. I mean, I'd rather you not just like go around hanging black people like me just because of our skin color, because oh my god, right? But it's like you got to understand that it's I keep alluding to this question, but it's like, as far as like the types of people I notice who get involved in this kind of stuff, for lack of better words, I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off. It's like losers tend to be the people who gravitate towards like Jewish conspiracies and stuff, because like if you were like socially accepted and had a girlfriend or something, you're probably not gonna find yourself in the type of situation where you're unironically just mashing on your keyboard, talking about how the Jews set you up to watch Fuda porn. That doesn't add up. Like I don't see any tall, blonde Aryan chavs complaining about this type of stuff. It's just something that I noticed when interacting with people, is that you have to be in a certain type of headspace and a certain type of social hierarchy to even get involved in conspiracy theories like that. And the more doomer shit Synth was saying in his streams when he started talking about Jews and stuff unironically, what he was actually like, you could tell like, okay, he's not really trolling here. This isn't really a joke, because I've been there. It's like sometimes like really late at night. Feel like if you stay to the very end of the stream, he might have a doomer moment where he starts talking like real shit about his life, and it's just kind of like oof, like I think if things turned out for him differently socially, like the synth that we know now wouldn't even exist because there'd no be reason there'd be no reason for him to go off about Jews if his life was in order.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. And see, that's why I'm like kind of confused when I was because I'm thinking about your video and then I'm listening to this conversation now, and it's beca- uh, like, oh, I thought she got it because she defended Synthetic Man or whatever. And it's like I still do because after I made those Fallout videos, which now that I look back at them, I don't really agree with a lot of the points I said in there. Like, there's only a couple points in there I still stand by, but a lot of it was, I think, influence and just that I, I guess because I've seen so much worse, the Fallout show didn't really bug me as much. But now that I look back at my original points, I was like, yeah, that wasn't really a good move to make because now that I've seen your video and now that I'm looking back at my old videos, excuse me, um, now that I'm looking at my old videos, I'm just like, yeah, man, now that I think about it, it's like, yeah, they probably did put that black woman there just for something because it's a intentional choice to make that person a type of skin color. And I know that that's weird because you look at like New Vegas and there's just this random black gay man named Jimmy who doesn't do anything for the plot. And then I'm just thinking, well, why is this not as obnoxious as the Fallout show? And then I'm thinking back and I'm just like, wait, in New Vegas, I don't remember any black female characters that were in power in that game, at least from my memory. But now that I look back on it, yeah, I think Synth was more in the right. There are still points I don't really agree with. And I still defended him because I was actually going to make a video after those Fallout videos in defense and offense of Synthetic Man's Fallout videos because people kept calling him a racist. I don't think he's racist. I just think he words things in a very in a very odd way that most people on this platform would not take lightly, and I think he needs to fix that because people think he's racist. Like, what are people? You're on a left wing platform, dude. What are people gonna think when you say promoting race mixing? Obviously, you're gonna get a lot of shit. You see what I'm saying? It's like I think he just words things very weird, but I don't think he's actually racist because I grew up in a black neighborhood half of my life. I know what racism's actually like, and he's nowhere near that level. He's just very. He doesn't think too clearly about his words, and I've said that in one of my videos before. I've said, because there was this one YouTuber who made a video about him, and I said, he's not racist, he just words things in a very weird way, and since he's white, he probably doesn't understand certain words that affect non-white people and stuff like that. And he's a freaking doomer, he's edgy. He's not going to really care about how he words things because he doesn't care about other people's feelings because he's a freaking synthetic man. He's robotic. He has no feelings. But
Uh,
that's just my take on that.
I mean, I guess because it's like I don't, this might seem like a curveball, but I gotta be brutally honest here. Like, I agree that I don't think that he's racist per se, but the point about race missing is so obtuse that I can't help but feel like that kind of circles back to the whole LARPing as a Nazi to compensate for the fact that I'm gay pipeline that I think is going on here because miscegenation, I understand like that point, and I've looked into it. And I talked to Carl about, he talked to me about Natsuck stuff and whatever. And it's like from what I read up about miscegenation. Are you familiar with the term miscegenation?
Miscegenation, I heard of it, but I'm not too keen on what it means. Really, I'm not.
It's basically the more technical term for race mixing. So basically, the idea is this: there's like a meme that encapsulates. If you ever seen the chocolate ape boiling in the pot of milk meme. Okay, so I think
Yeah,
you've seen that. So
yeah.
basically, it's like let's say the ape has like 87 IQ and the milk has like 100 something IQ, and the more the gorilla gets melted into the milk starts to become brown until the IQs fuse together, and they like even out to like 97. So basically, if you were to intermingle with races that are presumably inferior to your own, it weakens your own bloodline, effectively turning into what many synths affectionately call a mutt, right? So, you're
Yeah.
not a pure blood Aryan Saiyan warrior such as myself, right? So, um, so basically the whole idea is about the erasure of white people, like the Great Replacement, and that's part of the whole Jewish conspiracy of Jews to try to wipe out white people. Okay, not this. We're just talking about ideas. We're not saying anything, YouTube. Okay, we're not saying anything. We're just having a normal conversation. But that's what that conversation or that topic, when people bring up miscegenation, that's what it's about. So my question is, like, when Synth goes on about miscegenation and race mixing, why are you talking about race mixing in 2024? Because it's like, yeah, I've told the Simpsons that I'm blacker and black and I'm black, y'all, but that doesn't explain exactly like my entire family history. Like, my great grandmother was Native American, so I technically have more right to be here than any other white person trying to get me out of the country that my ancestors lived on before Columbus came in and his Nazi boat with his Nazi German elites, cabal elites of Jews trying to take the country from my people. But yeah, but it's like, there's so many people of color who have other people of other races in their bloodline just due to years upon years upon years of miscegenation and immigration and stuff. It's America. It's the great melting pot, right? That's how it's advertised.
Mhm.
So like, my dad basically looks orange as far as I can tell, and for the longest time I thought my grandmother on my father's side was white. I kind of feel like I should ask. It's like, what nationality are you actually? Because, like, you're kind of light skinned to be black. One of my cousins is black, but like in air quotes because she's albino. So she has like black facial features, but she the blonde hair, blue eyes, but the big, fat African nose. So like, so you see where I'm getting at? It's like, so when people talk about miscegenation in that context, are you even a pure blood white person when you talk about that? Because I could have sworn, like, Synth has talked about like his family being like Italian or some shit
Oh
before.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so like, I need to see Synth's family tree before I can even legitimize that as a talking point. Because when people talk about, oh, they're trying to replace white people, the great replacement, we're being bred out through a constant race mixing going, and it's kind of like, well, that's kind of already happened. So what are you really talking about? I mean, like, because, and this is a point I made when I was talking to Carl. I didn't really emphasize it at the time, but because he wanted to talk to me about black nationalism and making like a black ethno state. But it's like, why would I go to Africa to make a black ethno state? What, to just take it over? Because I don't have any relationship to those people. I'm so far detached from Africa because I grew up in America. I'm an American. I personally believe that nationalism should not be based on the color of your skin or your ethnicity, but rather your nationality, your connection to your people of your nation, right? Because people of one nation presumably share one collective culture, or at least are on somewhere on like some level on the same basis, right? They're somewhat on the same page. The problem with multiculturalism, the way I see it, is when people from different cultures that don't respect American culture come to the country and then start to subvert the country in ways to how their country works, and now everybody's kind of operating on their own wavelength, and they end up stepping on each other's toes because there's no like collective consciousness of what is deemed acceptable in this country. And simply kicking out all the brown people from your country doesn't really fix that. So I would prompt Synth to elaborate on his position regarding miscegenation and why that in particular is bad. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the race mixed couples in shows like the Fallout show are not something that should be worthy of noticing. It's just that when he talks about race mixing, he just says race mixing bad, but has never made a video elaborating on that point in particular. And what I'm saying is basically like, yeah, I understand that the Great Replacement is what you're alluding to, because that's effectively a dog whistle. Let's not dance around that. He's dog whistling to the Great Replacement Jewish conspiracy. It's just that that's something that's kind of already happened. So like, what are we really talking about here? Is it bad because you don't want your culture to be replaced, or is it bad because you just don't want to see a brother get some white coochie? Is that the problem? Because he doesn't really explain why it's bad, but that doesn't necessarily make you a racist. But when you think about the possible reasons why somebody would say that, I gotta be honest, it's kind of leaning more towards racism. So, it's something that would require some more clarification on his part, depending on whether or not he'd be willing to talk about something like that.
Yeah, I agree. And and what's funny is that people are like shitting on me. Like they're saying like, "Oh, you're a traitor. How dare you make a video criticizing him at the Fallout show?" And it's like, you guys realize I've been criticizing him since like 2021, right? Like I've always been like, in my opinion, I think a true fan is somebody who sees a problem with the thing they like and they want to see it better. I want to see Synthetic Man get better because I didn't like him because he went on rants about Jews. I liked him because he seems like the boy next door. He wasn't corporate and gave honest opinions about gaming and what's going on in the woke gaming industry. And whenever like, again, with that stupid ass Doom Eternal video where you said you're an idiot if you look up a guide for a single player game, and he also said speedrunners don't have fun with what they're doing. Do they look like they're having fun? And it's like, bro, they wouldn't do it if they weren't having fun. They do it because they want to do it. And I just, I don't know. I don't understand because you said that in your video too. Like, how are these Synthetic Man fans sheep? Well, that is an example of them being sheep. They never criticize him. They never tell him how he can get better. They just blatantly follow everything he says. And I've seen this for years. Like, I am the only one, maybe a few other people have done it, but me, the only Synthetic Man fan who has ever called him out on things that don't make any sense, on things that could have been said better, on things that he could improve with what he says. And that's mainly what my criticisms are, is that the things he says, like the way he says it, it just comes off as so wrong. And I don't think that he is racist, but again, he just doesn't. I I don't know. I think he's just been on 4chan too much. Like, and I think what he means by the race mixing being bad is that he's talking about how in our current climate, there's people online saying, "Oh, how it's good that white people are becoming a minority," and like you see all these people, like when the I don't know if I should say the acronym, but when the big fist
Oh
was in
man.
the air, uh, and all these black people going out and shooting all the whites and stuff out in the streets, and them saying all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, there's a huge race war happening right now, but I don't think white and black people getting together is like a horrible, awful thing. I don't. Like, America is a place for everybody, and just I don't think the Fallout show is that woke, man. Like, it's got woke elements, but compared to what we've seen with other shows, I don't think it's that bad. Like, the wokest thing in the show is that there's just a trans character that just shows up. I know why they did it. I'm not that stupid. I know why they did it. You have to be an idiot to not understand why they did it. And the black people in the show, for the most part, are treated like people. They have character arcs, even though they're not very well written. They have characters. They're not very well written. The problem isn't that they're black. The problem is that it's not very well written. That's the problem with the show. It's not very well written. And that's why I dropped it after like 5 episodes. Because I'm just like, this is just some schlocky nonsense. I don't care about any of these characters. I want to see my boy Joshua Graham. I want to see Kaiser or Caesar. I want to see Arcade Gannon. And New Vegas had plenty of black and gay characters in them, and they were all great and memorable. And then you watch the Fallout show, and you're just like, What's Lucy's name? What is Lucy's character arc again? Oh, she wants to like get better at living at the surface, and she wants to find her dad. Oh, okay, she's just a ripoff of Ryuka Matoi without any intrigue at all. And I just think the problem is the writing. There is some woke elements, but Synthetic Man constantly just says, "Oh, look at this black man, look at this Jew, look at Big Schnoz over here," and it's like, come on, man, just focus on the show. I don't care if we bring it up a couple times here and there. Jeez, man. Like I remember in his Resident Evil show review, he brought up like Wesker's race change like once. And then like you watch the Fallout show and he brings it up like 30 times. It's like we get it. We get it, dude. And it's just I don't know, man. I That's just my opinion on the subject. I just kind of wish he went back to the way he was before. He got so lost in his own politics, I guess, because that's what's happening. And I'm noticing it as someone who's been a fan of him for 3 years. I've noticed a big difference in his attitude. So, and again, I don't think the Fallout show is as woke as other shows. Take it from there.
Yeah, I would say that part of the problem with the current state of Sim's channel is that since he gets so much reflective reactions to whenever he talks about political stuff or whatever, I think is that's what's pushing him more towards like just injecting more and more of that into his content. Like when he went on that schizo tangent during the Tears of the Kingdom review, and how like he basically went on that self-admitted schizo rant on purpose for like to entertain the sim cells, but like
Exactly.
it's gotten to a point now where it's like you can only tell that joke so many times where it's not really a joke because from what I gather from what you're saying, it's not necessarily that he talked about the JQ or anything in his Fallout review that was the problem. Is that he did it. He was much more aggressive about it than in previous videos where he
Hmm.
talked about similar things like Last of Us, the Last of Us show review and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's so obnoxious. Like we get it, man. Like he constantly criticizes the lefties for putting their politics and everything, but he does the same thing. Every time he watches something or he reviews something, he constantly just picks on the politics in it, even if it's not really, I mean, if it's there, but it's not like super obnoxious or whatever. And it's like, we get it. You said it already like 3 times. We get it. But then he has to keep going on and on and on. It's so annoying to me. Like, I already hear politics in my day-to-day life. I don't want to hear it from my entertainment. So, and again, I didn't even like him for that. I just liked him because he was honest with his audience and he was honest with what's going on in the gaming industry. But like I think one of his greatest videos he ever made wasn't even anything that had politics in it. It was mostly I think the greatest video he's ever made is his Pokemon video. If you ever seen that, it's a great video. I recommend everybody go watch it. But his Pokemon video was great, and I wanted more of that. I want more of that kind of content from him, where it's just him ripping into something and being honest about it. Maybe sneak in some political stuff here and there because it's inevitable to escape it. But the fact that that's all he really talks about in his review of the Fallout show, and then he's got all these like little nitpicks that don't matter, like where he's like, "Oh, the ghoul, it's such a dumb name," and I'm like, "Well, okay, who cares? It's just a reference to how in other games, all the characters are called like the Courier, the Vault Dweller, the Chosen One. Like it's just a reference, and it's also a reference to the good and the bad and the ugly. Who cares? It's a nitpick. Like, why do you keep bringing it up?" And that's why I don't like his Fallout videos. They just feel like mass produced. They feel corporate to me because like he even said in his first video about Fallout, he just released his video reviewing the first episode just so he can get relevance. So this whole thing to me is just an excuse to get relevancy, to get views, and so the rest of the cells won't turn on him because, oh, look, I'm shitting on black people, I'm shitting on race mixing, and all that stuff. And it's just, I don't know, man. Like, that's why a lot of older fans have left him, and these newer fans that are coming in are just kind of gay. So,
Well, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, because that's definitely an issue because what happens is that I guess for lack of better words, oh man, the Simpsons are gonna hate me for this one, but appealing towards like the alt right pipeline. I'm saying this for the sake of brevity's sake, all right, just to make sure that everyone listening understands like the context of what I'm talking about here. That is going to attract a certain type of person, and I think now the content is kind of geared towards being like catharsis for those types of people, the type of people is like, oh yeah, the Jewish conspiracy, prawn bad because it was made by Jews, not because it makes you waste 8 hours of your life cooming to drawings or something. No, it's all because everything is a Jewish conspiracy. It's kind of leaning towards just pandering towards a particular group of people, kind of regardless of the accuracy, because it's like, for example, when he talked about the all gender bathrooms in Dead Space, right? It's not that I don't get that point, because I do talk about that in my video at some point. I talked about how he was right to call out the all gender bathrooms, because all gender implies that there's more than just two, and it's like, look, we've been down this road before. It doesn't make any sense. So why they put that in there? Why they race swap all the posters? Well, why do you care about they race swapped all the posters on the ship? Like that doesn't, like, what are you, racist? But it's like, why did they do that? Because when they make those types of changes, it's politically motivated. So why would I want to point that out? To point out the politics being injected into the game, right? So that makes sense. However, it's kind of gotten to the point now where there's so much emphasis on like exposing left-wing politics in media that the actual of the ramifications of that, or why you should care about that, isn't really being elaborated on, which is kind of ironic when you consider how even Synth himself told his fans, like his follow-up video about Baldur's Gate 3, that you shouldn't let politics ruin an experience for you, and how he gave Baldur's Gate 3 a good rating, despite the fact that it had a whole bunch of like literal gay shit and bear sex and leftist politics just slathered all over it. But now it's kind of gotten to the point now where it's like, he releases the video has to be topical, which I understand, because his channel wouldn't have gotten as big as it is now if he just stuck to talking about stuff that only he cares about. The classic, game reviews and recommendations, as cool as they were, just didn't hit the same way. I mean, I started off watching Synth from his Last of Us 2 game review, the original one way back when. That's how I discovered his channel. So, being negative, unfortunately, does get you more attention than being positive. But with that being said, it's kind of become a downward spiral. For all you Imp Lemon fans out there, it's become a downward spiral where he constantly has to talk about this particular thing like basically just to keep the show running, and it's like it's like we've kind of, I wouldn't say I've gotten sick of it per se, but it's like I got the point already. But it's not particularly deep. That's why I keep mentioning American Krogan in the video I just released about you, is because American Krogan, when he talked about JQ stuff, he didn't just like say Jews bad. He bothered to at least go into detail about like the history of certain things being implied. Like it was more analytical, when since is a lot more inflammatory, and it just kind of comes off as almost like junk food for people who are in that like 4chan soy jack sphere of the internet, which I think that's overall that's actually kind of harmful towards our side, so to speak, because like imagine if Synth actually got on EFAP and had a debate with Mahler, and just how terrible that would have been, as far like if it just went completely south and it's like, oh, this guy doesn't know how to articulate himself, and it's just like, well, that shows that anybody who has a problem with this woke stuff is actually just an insane Nazi, so we can just write everybody off. It's not the best type of representation, but I've talked to people about my thoughts on like the current state of Synth before, and the response I get seems to be that the best cure for this is to get off the internet entirely. It's like, you're not wrong, but it just kind of proves the point that like Synth's content is a little pointless in a way.
Yeah, I agree. And when I was watching your video, I remember you saying that none of the synth community was like isolating me or something. I forgot what the word was. Like they,
Ostracize. You use the
yeah,
word ostracized.
but but that wasn't the Discord I was talking about. There was this other Discord I was in a very long time ago, when I was first starting to make content. And there's this guy Husky. I hate him. He's an annoying piece of shit. And he would like he just turned his back on me for some reason at one point. I think that's because I criticized Synthetic Men at one point. Oh, the humanity. And all those people just turned on me. And so I left that Discord, and then I made the Doom Eternal video because that video is so bad. I don't care what anyone says, but of course the blind sheep think it's a great video, and I got a lot of shit for that. And then that's when like people were like, "Oh, she's a traitor. Women don't understand synthetic man and all that." And I'm just like, guys, I'm criticizing his take on a video game. Like, why are you putting politics into this again? So then I was like, well, now I got to make safe content because every time I criticize them, all the fans are gonna give me shit and they're gonna call me a traitor and they're gonna say I backstabbed them and that like you're woke and yada yada. And this wasn't just classic like little comments. This was actual harassment. Like I remember one of them said for me to get raped. I can't say the R word, but that's how horrible they were to me. So there was a lot of harassment, man, and I understand it wasn't on that Discord in particular because I didn't really talk much on the Discord because I didn't want to start something. So, and then and maybe I shouldn't have left in a huff. Maybe I should have explained myself, but I really wanted to get away from the community at the time when I released those follow videos because that really damaged my channel a lot. Like I lost so many subscribers. I lost like a lot of people for telling me how much of a traitor and stuff I was and horrible, awful things to me. And I just was like, okay, I got to get out of here. Like, I'm tired of having to make my content safe for these people because if I say anything negative about them, if I say anything that's just my opinion, they're all going to go crazy. So I had to leave, and I realized, like, how much Synthetic Man can be wrong. Um, and I know a lot of people, oh, sorry, a lot of people are going to give me shit for this, but, um, when he was deleting comments and banning people because he suspected they were bots, that's when I was like, okay, I lost more respect for you. Because that's just. Look, I know you said in your video, I can't take the heat. I can take the heat. I have taken criticism from a lot of people. Like, there was somebody who said, hey, you need to do more editing in your videos because, or make the music a little louder and stuff. And so I was like, okay, so I did that. And then people were like, hey, you need to get better mic. So I got a better mic. And then, people were in the comments saying, hey, I don't agree with this, but this is your opinion. I was like, okay, whatever. But I never, aside from Husky, those people that actually were terrible, those are the only people I wanted off my channel. I don't ban anybody. You know, everybody is free to give their own opinion and their own thoughts in the chat. I don't care who you are, what opinion you have. You could be a goddamn Nazi. I don't care. But Synthetic Man banned people in his chat because they were all criticizing him. And you can't tell me they were just bots because when you look back at those comments, most of those people were just arguing with each other in the chat, or some people were just like, "Ban me, I don't care." Like that, like that's not a bot, man. And then he made a post saying, "Hey, this was just a trap to catch all you grifters." So this wasn't a way to find bots. He's just banning people because they shit on him. And a lot of people, again, being sheep, just followed him and said, "Oh yeah, that makes sense to me," never thinking twice about it. And then there's that moist critical thing where he just shit on somebody for their looks that they can't control. And I'm just like, dude, come on. You're cute and all, but you're not Elvis, okay? You don't look like someone who was carved by angels, okay? You don't have any right to talk about how somebody else looks. And then again, you got all the sheep coming in and it's just like I gotta leave this community, like it's just really bad and all the old fans are gone anyway. So aside from a few, but I still watch him because I still appreciate what he does. I mean, and he's funny. He's really hilarious. But I don't really have the same respect for him like I did about 3 years ago. And he was hiding under this right wing blanket when he was really just a crazy man the whole time. And I don't understand why he didn't think he was not going to get any crap for him coming out as a Fuda, because that's like technically gay porn. But whatever.
Technically.
I mean, that's what it is to me. It's
Technically, are you sure you don't mean like is or
uh,
positively? Technically,
yeah, yeah. I'm positive it's gay. It's gay pornography. I would even argue it's trans PRN, but we're not gonna. I don't want to get into that. I just
a woman with a dick and balls is possibly trans, possibly.
I like I like his excuse too, where he was just like, "Oh, it's a psychological thing. I just saw it when I was a kid, and I was like, it's a psychological thing." I'm just like, dude, no, you're gay.
And he never elaborated on it.
Dude,
Because
you're
he's
just
like, I'm gonna
gay.
get in more trouble if I do that. But it's like, but why? I mean, you're already in the hot seat. You might as well explain yourself. When you don't explain it, it sounds even worse.
It's just a psychological thing. It's a deep look into the human mind, and I liked how he was explaining it. He was actually like, it's just a deep look into the, and he's like freaking out. He's kind of shaking and sweating and everything. And I remember when I saw that clip, I just
He
sat there
was actually
laughing in my
sweating in
chair.
that clip. I gotta see that clip again. 'Cause I don't
He
remember a
looked like
clip where
he
he
was
was like
sweating.
shaking and sweating. I just remember him like, because I remember the one he was playing Spider Man. He was playing Spider Man 2, and he was trying to like say like, oh, like a man's brain inside like a woman's body is like gay or something. He's trying to make it sound like mental or something, and just kind of like, what do you mean? Like it has everything to do with the physicality of the person. It's like she has a penis. That's what we're talking about. Like why are you attracted to dick and balls? It's a penis. Even if it's like one of those foodies that has like the penis and the vagina at the end where the ball should be. I don't monetize my videos, so it doesn't really matter if YouTube doesn't let me do that. But it's like look, man, like where are you getting at? Because I've seen enough of that stuff to tell you that it's gay either way you look at it. It's either gay in the sense that like it's girl on girl, but one of the girls has a peepee, so like it's straight, but it's also like gay, or like it's gay in the sense that it's like it's a guy and a girl, but like the girl also has guy genitalia, so like the entire appeal of Fuda is based around it being gay. There's no way around it.
It's so gay, dude. Like I just remember watching that clip where he's just like nervously, like he looks like he's smiling, right? And he's like, hey, yeah, it's just a psychological thing. But you could tell he's like, oh shit, this is where my career ends or something. Like he, and in my head, I'm just thinking, you could have kept this to yourself, man. Like I still remember when you said oh, you think I'm into food? And then like a year later.
It kind of reminds me of that scene from Eric Andre where he just pulls out the gun and just shoots Hannibal, and then it's like, who killed Hannibal? It's like, what do you mean?
I know what you're talking. I love that clip. I used to watch Eric Andre. He was funny back then. Let
Oh
me
man,
in.
oh
But
man.
yeah, I don't know, man. I just Synthetic Man. I think has just gone downhill. I don't think he's like I don't understand what he thought was gonna happen. Where he's like, oh yeah, I hate left wing content. I hate Fujoshi women who are into gay yaoi stuff. But it's totally okay that I'm into dicks.
Yeah,
It's like
that doesn't
okay.
really add up.
Yeah, he criticized Fujoshis, and he was like, "Oh, a lot of ugly women watch like gay stuff. It's disgusting." And then he's into gay porn, and then he tries to be like, "Well, I'm not actually gay. I just like it on a psychological level." It's like, what? Like you're either into it or you're not, dude. Like you don't go looking for this shit because it's a psychological thing. Like what?
that, that explains all the buck breakers content. I guess it's like a buck breaking thing. I don't know. It's like he says something about it like the best of both worlds. Something about Uberbench when he was like playing Sandland. During one of the Sandland streams, someone got on him about it again. He started talking about like Ubermensch stuff, and it's just kind of like the description you're giving. It sounds like something like Low Tier God said once about like the ultimate bee that has like no like genitals or something, like it like pees out of his butthole. But it's like, what are you talking about? Like even and honestly, it's less gay because what Low Tier God was describing was basically someone without genitals, not something with like both.
Look, Synth, just come out that you're gay. Look, I got a gay friend over here who said he totally get with you, man. Look, just come out with it and say you're gay. Like it's okay. We're living in 2024. It's all right.
Oh man, because you talked about hiding behind right wing persona. So what is your definition of right wing though? Because some people would look at Simps content and say that that it's too right wing or like alt
Hmm.
right, and that's like the problem with the current state of his channel. And that, you've mentioned before that you're like against the trans movement because it preys on kids and stuff, but you've never like elaborated on your actual like thoughts on that. So I figured now would be a good time to get like your deeper thoughts on like where you align politically and how it reflects, like your differences with sense when it comes to politics.
Oh boy, this is where I get shot in the ear like Trump.
Oh,
Um,
sheesh.
so I don't think Synthetic Man is right winged. I think he's just nuts. But a right winger is somebody who, one, is not into Fuda because most of us are straight. Two, we believe in conservative values. Men go to work, women stay home. We believe in that stuff. We vote red, I guess, if you want to go that far. We don't believe in the trans movement. We don't believe in the gay movement. Most of us are Christians or religious. Um, Mostly, I don't like the trans movement again because it just preys on children, and I don't like that. And it gives false information that, like, oh, if you get the surgery, you'll feel good about yourself, and then like a year later, they regret it. And I just which I find funny because I just said I had a gay friend, but I don't really. He's fine.
I mean, I have a trans friend in my circle. I just, when it comes to the whole like trans movement stuff, like you said, like I feel like she just got into a group of the wrong types of people hanging around on a Discord or something. So now they're convincing her that she's a guy. I mean, I don't want to like put her on blast or tell her any of her personal information, so I'll just keep it brief. But my whole thing about that is, I'm cool with her and everything, and we talk and we play games and stuff. I try to just stand by her, and all I want is for her is to not make any decisions that she regrets, because knowing the reality of those types of surgeries, this is why whenever I get into a call with people like on Discord and these unhinged Discord groups where it's like, no, it's totally normal to chop your dick off. I'm just like, do you guys even know how these procedures even work? I'll like try to get them to watch like a stream of someone actually getting this procedure done, because it's like, it's not like they just give you a magic serum shot and you just grow a dick out of your clitoris or something. Like, no, they rip off your arm fat or something. They do this weird skin grafting thing to your arm where they take material from your arm, they craft it into an Oscar Mayer wiener, Frankenstein that shit over your clitoris, and like if they force you to pee out of it, you have to use a weird like pump contraction to give yourself a quote unquote erection. It's way. I'll say this, right. When it comes to transgenderism, is it's way easier for a man to become a woman than a woman to become a man. I guess that's like partially true, because like if you're a woman and you want to transition into a man, it's more convincing to have like a genuine quote unquote transition, right? As far as like sounding and looking like a man because of testosterone's effect on the body. However, because testosterone has such a great effect on your body compared to estrogen, once you decide that you regret that decision, it's a lot harder to reverse that, as opposed to a male to female transition where, yeah, you can't get your balls back and you'll forever have a rot pocket in between your crotch. But, the effect that it has on like your vocal cords and facial features and stuff, to my understanding, isn't as traumatic, because it's like they don't have to like rip parts of your arm off or whatever. Because I did know someone who, on another person who isn't my friend but was also trans, and they were in that same circle, knowing a pattern here. All these trans people happen to just know each other in similar circles. But she was also transitioning to a man and then started identifying as an it, not they, an it. She was also Jewish. That's also a nice little. Anyone was fun. She was unironically
Oh man,
Jewish, and
kill two birds with one stone.
it it um it ruined her. She used to like sing and stuff, and it ruined her vocal cords and everything. And the more I talked to this person, the more it's like, this person is unhinged. And then there's a whole like story about one of my friends at the time. We ended up butting heads over it. Basically, he ended our friendship so he could try to have this girl fly out to him and fuck her in the butt. Okay, YouTube's probably not gonna like that, but it's like that's what happened though. That's literally what happened. And he's like, like stop arguing with my girlfriend. It's like, okay, for starters, she identifies as your boyfriend. Second, she's infertile because she already got HIT, HRT. Third of all, you are obviously pandering and capping so hard because you are so desperate for coochie. Men have such a hard time getting relationships, like like sub 5 men, that they will literally go out of their way to get trans Jewish coochie before just giving up. I guess that was bad, but
Yeah,
um,
'That's funny. Because speaking of relationships, man, dude, when you said that in your video where it's like it was something mentally wrong with you, one, you're right, but two, it's just mainly because I didn't have any talking skills and I wasn't the most attractive bloke in the school, and most men in that school go after the sluts. I actually remember I did a 50 style flirt. I just looked at this really hot guy across the table and I just gave him a creepy smile and I think he reported me to the dean. But man, I just remember one time I actually shot my shoot because there was all these people in my chat being like, "Hey, why don't you get with Synthetic Man? He seems perfect for you. Why don't you actually like ask him out or something?" I'm just like, "No, he wouldn't like me." But I did it. I went into his chat and I said, "Synthetic Man, will you marry me?" And he just shit on me. And then I remember drinking that night because I was sad. And then when he was revealed he was into food, I remember drinking and saying, "Why do all the men I like are gay?"
well, I mean, in retrospect, I think we can both agree that you shouldn't just walk up to a guy that you like and be like, "Hey, you marry me?" I mean, I did
You want
have
to go
some.
out? He's like the creepiest woman in the room. "Hey, you want to go out?"
I mean, I did have
Uh,
something similar happen when I was in high school. Like this girl just walked up to me, this little black girl, and she was just like, "Hey, can I call you Boo?" And I didn't even know what Boo even meant. I was just kind of like, "Huh?" Like,
ugh, cringe. Oh my god. Yeah, I never had a actual real relationship until like now. Like I've been lonely for years and I tried very hard sometimes to get into a relationship and it just never worked. Like they just always like, "Nah, I'm good." Or they would just be like, "Nah, you ugly." or something and I'm just like, I'm lonely forever." And like I was lonely throughout high school. Like I barely had any friends at all and anything. Like I was just a quiet kid. And funny story, when all the quiet kid memes were a thing back in when I was in high school, my last year of high school, I remember reaching into my bag and all the people around me got up from their desk and tried running away. I'm not kidding. That actually happened when the team.
wait, they really thought that a woman was
Yeah.
gonna go ER on them?
Yeah, because I always wore black all the time. It wasn't my fault. I liked black and my grandma wanted me to match. So I always wore black to school. I looked like a fucking school shooter. So I remember just reaching into my bag to grab my notebook, and I had my hoodie up, like my hood up on my head, because I was sitting in the back where it was sunny, and I didn't want the sun to get my eyes. And I remember just reaching in my bag, and everybody got up, and like they all scooted their desk away from me, and I was like, "What? What did I do?" Because they all thought I was gonna shoot at the school.
Oh
Like
man.
I had that vibe, man. I didn't mean to have it. I just dressed in black all the time, and I was quiet. I didn't talk to anybody because I didn't have any social skills. So I was lonely. That's probably why I didn't have anybody. I was ugly and lonely.
I don't know about ugly. I mean, I know this grandma meme picture of you going around with the. Is that actually
Oh,
you?
no,
Yeah, I was thinking it's like, is this picture actually her with the Elvis
no.
cake?
Okay, so there's a story. This is the story. I was at a restaurant with my friend, Peyton. She's not around anymore. But anyway, I was with the restaurant with my friend, and I told her, "Hey, take a picture of this cake." And this bitch, she took my picture and she put a filter on it to make my cheeks and everything way bigger. And I remember looking at it, I was like, "You bitch, why would you do that?" And I took it down immediately. Like I took it down so quickly, but for somehow everybody had a picture of it, and like I only had the picture up for like 4 minutes. I'm not even joking, and everybody had it, and I'm just like, okay, well, it's over. And then everybody just started making fun of me, and I'm just like, I don't even look like that. Like, why are you like they hated me because I didn't look that good, and I'm not saying that I'm like pretty. But I'm average. That's what I would say to myself. But no, I don't look like that. That's not what I look like normally at all. And I was so pissed at her for doing that. Like I was so mad. And oh,
So, so you would say that you're more attractive conventionally than that what that picture would imply.
uh, I don't. I'm very like okay. Take this as you will, but there was one black guy in school who said, "Hey, you're a 6 out of 10, so that's average." What do you take from that? Is that a 6 out of 10? That's not bad. That's almost halfway. So
Because you know us guys, we'll fuck anything that moves. But I don't know because I know people would meme that picture and be like, oh, she's ugly, she looks like a little grandma. But I always thought, okay, how do I make this sound not creepy, especially since you already have a boyfriend? I honestly thought the picture was kind of endearing in a way because just for me
endearing.
personally, I'm not a fan of like slutty women, caked up in like makeup and stuff. I have my favorite prawn stars and crazy degenerate fantasies and whatnot. But as far as like would you marry that girl? It's like I don't know no Godfather. I don't know that woman, right? Because I don't really like fantasize about women in that particular type of way. That's kind of off topic, but the point I'm trying to get at is that when I saw that picture and people were saying that was you, I was just like, oh, I mean, she looked like she'd probably be like a Cincilla. I can kind of see why she's here, but she doesn't look ugly to me, right? I mean, it's kind of cute in a way, that that's someone who just has this nice little cake on them, and they aren't like because I can't stand people like Belle Delphine and like SS Sniper Wolf and that ooh ooh shit because it's so disingenuous. I liked that the picture gave a feeling of authenticity, and now you're telling me that the picture is actually a filter and that you look more
Well,
attractive than that.
okay, I'll tell you this. So the filter, like it's hard to say. Like I do look a lot like that, but I don't look that huge, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like I do have those. I hate my eyes because every time I smile, I look like an Asian woman. But
I like
I
Asian
I
women.
do I do look like that, but I'm not that big. So I don't wear makeup or anything, which is I don't know if my face is really red in that picture because I have rosacea. But yeah, I'm well, I mean, I'm not like fat, but I got some meat, but it's not like every time it's not like if I sit on you you're gonna die. But
Oh
I'm
man, that's
average.
disappointing.
I'm average. That's what I'm telling you. I'm average at best. And even then I didn't get anybody. So I mean I'm not pretty or anything, but I'm average. I look like just a normal ass fucking girl. Nothing interesting about her. She just looks like a school shooter. Um but it was total luck that I found this guy because we're both average people who have to work very hard to get where we were, and we just had the same interests. His humor is really funny. He does a lot of racial humor, which makes me laugh a lot. He says really fucked up stuff. Um, but it was so lucky that I found him, and we've been going strong for I think about 5 months, 5 or 6 months. So we went through the dreaded honeymoon period. But yeah, it was again, I wouldn't say I'm beautiful, but I'm average looking. And when you said that to me, it's like in the video, it's like, dude, I've been lonely all the way throughout high school, and I've been lonely for a very long time, even after that. And then it was just pure luck that I found this guy. And I still have to work hard just as everybody else has to. Like where I work, I have to put in the same amount of effort that a man has to because my boss is a idiot. I hate her. But I don't know. I guess I'm the exception. Maybe if
It,
that's, I guess. I don't know. I don't really think it's that hard to find women like me. You just gotta know where to look.
well, I mean, look, if you've got the cheat code, I wouldn't mind a hint. Where do I
uh,
find these women?
so just look in your local apartment complex that looks like it belongs to hoodlums, and if you see a pair of shoes on top of phone wires, that's where you'll find them. Just find them in the hood. That's where you find women like me,
I
the
have
ones
to
who stay in
go.
their house all day.
I have to start. I mean, I do live in an apartment complex, so I guess I just go door to door and start knocking on the doors to see, like, are there any women in there?
Hey, you got any like kind of chubby women in there who like video games and they wear black all day and they look like they're gonna tell their friend not to show up to school tomorrow? And they'll be like, "Oh, sure, yeah, we got plenty of them. They're all in the room playing WoW." So,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was kind of alluding to. It was talking about like black pillars being their own worst enemies because my previous friend group, which I'm not gonna get into too much detail about that, just but I will say this, that part of the drama that ended up me leaving that group in the first place was them trying to force me to go out and get a girlfriend, which sounds like the stupidest thing ever. It's like you still stop being friends with people because of something like that, but it's like they tried to hook me up with some random woman, and they based it entirely around like fetish shit. It's like, oh well, he likes heavier women, so we'll try to get this 650-pound land whale, but not give him any pictures, and then like try to like force them to talk on Discord. And I'm just like, oh, look, if you insist upon me talking to this woman, I'll talk to her, but like I'm not going to like nothing's gonna happen, right? Because I don't know this woman personally, so. And then when they contacted her, apparently they just like painted me out to be like the worst possible person. Said I was a gamer, and I'm just like, okay, you never want to introduce yourself as a gamer to someone, especially over Discord. Okay, that's strike one. Strike two, you didn't say anything about my job or my actual like hobbies beyond gaming. It's like you paint me on the worst possible way. She just got a divorce. You kind of left that part out, right? You didn't even mention that, and then you asked her to for a picture of herself to send to me when I look. I was asking if they had any pictures of her already because it's like, oh, is she hot or not? But it's like you never want to just ask a woman for her picture. That is insane. I'm like, and it's a married woman that set this all up and fucked it all up. I'm just like, you are a married woman and you don't see the problem with asking your friend for pictures when she's like 650 pounds, is probably insanely insecure about how
holy
she looks. What were
shit.
you thinking? What were you doing that?
650 pounds. You know, all
That's
the
what they
people.
said, but I never saw a picture, so I don't believe the woman even existed. I feel like they just did it to fuck with me. But it's like, you know, not doxing all my shit about relationships, but I guess the short version is that I don't really jive too well when it comes to like, oh man, that woman is like so hot, I should like walk up and talk to her. It's like I'm not talking to somebody just based on how they look, right? So it's kind of like the fact that they did all of that, even though I've like talked about like how I feel about abstinence because I practice abstinence and everything. It's like that was just really disrespectful shit, and that's kind of where it's like, you know what, I can't really trust you guys after that because I feel like you did that to fuck with me, but but it's like holy fucking shit. Where was I forgot where I was going with that story. I kind of just mentioned it because I thought it was funny because it reminded me of that. But oh yeah, about getting into relationships. What I've noticed, right, with a lot of people who are like stuck indoors and are sub five or whatever, it's hard for people to like go out and actually meet people like in person. So when it's kind of like, oh, where do I meet all the doomer girls? It's like, oh, they're all trapped inside their houses. Well, I'm also trapped inside my house. So now what do? And then you try to quote unquote date online, and that could lead to a lot of very very interesting interactions, to say the least. But one of the things I mentioned this in the video too. There was this one 450-pound girl that I used to know who had her own OnlyFans, And all I'm thinking to myself, because you're talking about how difficult it was for you to find a relationship, is that um, it's not. I'm not like, trying to like discredit anything that you're saying, because what I'm hearing it basically sounds like you are the IRL Daria. If you remember Daria, that show. Yes.
You know what? You know what? You're not far off from that. I think that's pretty accurate.
I used to really like that show. I remember watching it. I enjoyed it as a kid. But
Oh, you stupid assholes. I'm not like the rest of you.
yeah, but it's so it's not difficult for women to find I guess it depends on your definition of the word relationship. Like it's easy to get for a woman to get dick. It's just it's not easy to get a real relationship. And I do remember I made a distinction like that in the video when I was talking about that. I don't know how clear it was, because I was like half asleep even while I was recording the damn thing. But yeah, so that I do agree with, though, is that all because you're a woman doesn't mean you'll find love, because you have to make a distinction between, oh, I have a boyfriend and we bang each other's brains out, versus someone who
Mhm.
actually like generally cares about you. Because like a Chad will like bang fives and sixes on the side, but he won't keep them. So like it's easy for you to get with some Giga Chad who might dump you, but how are you going to get Chad to actually marry you, right? That's kind of like a completely different type of thing. And I think a lot of guys, they see all these women and how easy it is for them to get dates and stuff, compared to like the sub 5 guy who, if he's a below a 7, or he's like a 7 or below, he's a ghost. And that from that perspective, it's harder. But you also have to look at the bigger picture of, what do you want out of a relationship? Do you just want a woman to have sex with, so the sex gives you like female validation, or are you trying to build a family with this person and do something that's more long lasting? And I've watched quite a bit of black pill content to understand the trends going on, because a lot of younger and younger people, people too from my generation and younger, are talking about this. And it's just like, what exactly is going on with these people? Because I've never had that same like craving where it's like, oh man, I'm 32 years old and I've never had any pussy. Oh my god, it's like I could have probably have lost my virginity in high school, because I had this one incident where 3 girls had actually circled around me on my they jumped me when I was going to my locker, and started making sexual like re- remarks and stuff to me, right? And like if the sexes were reversed, you'd call that sexual harassment. 3 dudes gang up on this one girl talking about some, hey baby, huh, hoo, huh, huh. Like what are you doing, right? Like,
Hey, mama.
so there's being like dick sucking references and all this other shit. And I just had to like get the fuck out of there, because it made me feel very uncomfortable. And when I told my folks about that stuff, oh, you were so lucky. Nice, right? It was the nice meme. And I'm just kind of like, really? Because that was sexual harassment. I didn't sign off on that. So,
Uh, it was the opposite with me. It was really funny because the only time I've ever had a man or any men at all have any interest in me was that I sat at this one table in the lunchroom with all these black men, and they all kind of stared at me when I got up from the table, and they all kind of followed me a little bit, and I was like, uh-oh. And I went home and I told my dad what happened. I was like, Dad, all these black men were like following me, and he was like, uh-oh. And I remember when I told my friend that, who's also black, he actually pulled up the image of the white lady on the couch with all the black men around her, and I said, "You're an asshole."
oh
It was
wow.
actually the opposite. I had all these men kind of gang up on me, and in my head, I was thinking, okay, this is the part of the harem anime where you're supposed to do something, but I'm also nervous because we're in the kitchen. I mean, I kind of wish we were doing this privately, because that's how freaking desperate I was at the time. Like, I was so like desperate for anything that I was actually willing to do something with these guys, but then nothing happened. Like, it didn't go anywhere, so I was like, oh, why did I do anything? But then I realized, wait, I think they're gonna do something bad
Well,
now that I look
well,
back
well,
on it.
well, yeah. I mean, that sounds like the start of like one of those. pranos, like one of those, like the gang grape seeds. That's what it.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's bad. What do you?
Is this a hentai?
Is it true that women have like those types of fantasies? I hear like
No. I
BDS, the
at the
BDSM
time
thing. Is it?
I at the time I was kind of like, oh, this could actually go somewhere, but because I was younger back then, I didn't really understand that if it actually went the way I thought it was gonna go, it would have been very bad. But again, I was desperate and I didn't really get sex really. Like I was basically just the harm anime character who wanted it, but I was too scared to really do anything about it. So like every time there actually was a guy, well, that happened like once, but okay, well, when it happened at the moment, I was just like, well, what am I supposed to do? And then nothing happened. And now I look back on it, I can't believe I actually considered the thought of doing anything because uh, like that's how desperate I was and how I didn't really get sex. And then, man, what happened? Because I every time I didn't never had any men hit on me. I had women hit on me. I don't get it. I don't know what happened. I had the women hitting on me in the locker room at one point, and I was like, no, it's supposed to be the opposite. I don't like this. And I think it was just because I was a tomboy. I mean, I still am, but I was more tomboyish. So I guess they liked the masculine kind of thing going on, even though I wasn't masculine. I just didn't like dresses and stuff. But whatever. I don't know, man. School is weird. But that's the life story from me. Take that as you will.
Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I said, like that's very believable. So I think where when it comes to the whole like black pill relationship thing, it's a difference of it's an issue of perspective. That's how I view it, because if it was about like purely like getting sex, then I think it would be disingenuous to say that women don't have it easier, but it also depends on the importance of sex, like without any like love. Like I mean, I've never fallen in love with anyone, so I couldn't really tell you. I'm starting to question whether or not I'm just asexual. Period. Because I have people like accuse me of that before. I'm just like, yeah, but I mean, I like hentai and anime girls, and I think this woman is attractive or whatever. But yeah, but like, why aren't you have a girlfriend? Well, I don't have any interest in having sex. Well, there you go. It's like I don't know what to make out of that. But yeah, for a lot of people, it sounds like they just really want a woman in their life to have like a sense of validation, but that's not really the same as like a reciprocal give and take, like a long term relationship. The sex is not love. So if it's a question of whether it's easy for women to find love, I mean, maybe I would say because like guys don't have hypergamy, and guys typically are date down because of a lack of hypergamy. So you can make the argument that it's a man will fall in love with a woman for different reasons than what a woman would seek from a man. And because the woman might be more likely to get in relationship with a man to for his resources, and not necessarily because she actually like cares about him. But I would also say in that respect, because you mentioned, like all the guys going after like the sluts and whatnot. There's a reason why so many Twitch sots are popular, because they use their looks and stuff. It's like, oh my god, a hot girl that likes video games, teehee. That's something I actually did want to talk to you about too, about women in male spaces, or I guess nerd spaces. 'Cause it's not like there aren't female nerds, but you got to be honest that they're a rarity. And I've noticed that there's a lot more gamer girls running around with their tops off, selling gamer girl bathwater to desperate young men. And to me, it just looks like a bunch of succubi preying on these lonely dudes who play video games and watch anime to compensate for the fact that they failed at the social hierarchy, and now all these Stacy's and Becky's are preying on them. And I do feel like there is a trend now of, I guess you could say, like black pill women, like like women who are kind of like acting like you and may not necessarily be like disingenuous, but it feels like like the doomer girl is the evolution of like the e-thought, where it's like, well, that's starting to get boring, so why don't I just mess up my hair, pretend to review a GTA 4 for fucking the PlayStation 3, and then like I'll get a whole bunch of lonely guys who's looking for a more authentic woman to simp for me. And now it's the Becky's turn to become an ethot. It just kind of feels like there is a lack of sincerity when women enter male spaces. Which, going back to what we talked about earlier about, Husky snapping on you and stuff, I think the reason why you would have bad interactions with people in those types of spaces has to do with a feeling of resentment towards women that these people have. That's like it's like a sins of the father type of thing. You're kind of paying the price for things that other women did before you arrived there, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And again, I think it just differs from woman to woman because, like I said, if a man actually came on to me at the time back then, probably even now, but if a man came on to me, and he was like being all sexy, take his shirt off, nice, got that whole anime thing going with the whole sex scene or whatever, I would run away because I wouldn't know how to deal with it because I wanted sex, but I was also battling with my dad's ideology because I grew up in a Christian household. Like, save yourself for marriage. Sex is like a horrible, awful thing most of the time or something. So I think it also just depends on the women you find. Like, don't go to the bars. Don't go to, you know, to, like, this is my thing. Men, if you hear this, if you go up to the woman and you say, "Can you cook or clean?" and she says, "No, I ain't your mama," goodbye. That, like, I'm just saying, like, if a woman can't do basic womanly things, just go. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, if she's more focused on her career or work and she's not focused on you at all, that's a red flag. If she doesn't want to put in the effort to support you at all in any way, leave her. Like, I think it's pretty easy to tell what's a good woman and what isn't. At least I do. Like, I tell men that this all the time. Like, just find a woman if she's able to cook and clean and she supports you emotionally, keep her. Like, and another sign is that she keeps asking you for money. If she keeps asking you for money and cares about money, that's another bad sign. Um, and that's why there was this one guy in school who told me, "You're seriously the 1,101%." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, you don't care about a man's money, you don't care about his looks or whatever." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I never really cared about that sort of thing, and I still don't. Like, my man isn't the richest dude on the planet. That's fine. We both work, and we're both getting by, and but we're happy, and that's the most important thing." And I think that's what's kind of lost in today's culture. And I think the only way we can get men and women back on the same track is if we change the culture. And that's why us conservatives are trying to conserve traditional values because, in my opinion, from what we've seen and what we've studied, traditional values is the best way to go. That's what makes everybody happy. Because what purpose do I have as a woman if I'm not married and I don't have anybody and I don't have any children? I don't feel fulfilled. And I'm sure most women don't feel fulfilled. And I'm sure that's the same with men because men are kind of pushed away. They're just like, they got like men were the hunters and women were the gatherers. When now men don't even get to be the hunters anymore because now we're saying women can be hunters, but women and men should not be doing the same thing. That doesn't work. You can't put two um, pieces of the same magnet together and expect it to stick. It pulls away. So look at me doing this far right feminist rant. I'm not even a feminist. I hate feminists more than anything. I think feminists are the biggest plague on this nation. I want them to go away. I hate them. Um, but for me personally, I think it would change the culture back to a more traditional way. I think that could fix a lot of issues if we make men back being the strong, masculine type and keep the women more feminine and nurturing type. And I'm not saying all women have to be like dresses and frilliness and stuff like that. Like you can be a tomboy but still do your womanly duties. I'm one of those people who believe a woman can be a tomboy but still do her womanly duties. Is that so much to ask? I don't think so. But that's just my opinion. A lot of women are probably seething in the comments if there's any women that watch this channel. But that's just my opinion. You
Uh,
know,
trust me, nobody watches my channel. So you don't have to worry about that. Nobody watches this. But yeah, that's very interesting because I mean, I'm not too surprised that you said that, but it does. Now I am curious. I gotta drop the nuke, right? The
right?
woman question.
Uh
How do
oh.
you feel when people talk about like take women's rights away? So like women's right to vote, yay or nay?
I don't care. I don't care if women vote or not. Who gives a shit? What do women need to vote for anyway? They don't get politics. I'm
So
just saying. I
so
don't care. I don't vote anyway. I don't care.
so are you
Like, what
saying
is?
that women shouldn't have the right to vote, or
I don't. I'm just saying I don't care. It's either or. If they take away the right to vote, I'm gonna be the one who be like, okay, whatever. It's not gonna change my life. Who cares? I'm sure it won't change a lot of people's lives. Women just wanted to vote because they're like, oh, why do the men get to vote? It's like, well, because they were in war and stuff, and most men became they pretended like average everyday men could vote. It wasn't average everyday men that could vote. They were men who were top in the power, who were rich, who were dukes or whatever you want to call it. Like people who were in power are the ones who got to vote, not average everyday men who worked on the farm. But no, in schools we tell ladies, "Oh, you stupid men not letting us women to vote." Oh, go fuck yourselves. It's like whatever. So if they took women's right away to vote, I don't care. It's not going to affect me in any way. I'm sure a lot of feminists will go out and rage, and that's how I felt the same way when they took away abortion rights. It's like I don't care. I'm pro-life anyway. It doesn't matter. So you know, bomb drop. Pro-lifer. Yes, I am.
oh wow, we
That's
you know
just me.
it's hilarious how many like we have like similar stories, but it's like we're coming from like the opposite ends here because I grew up in a left leaning household, you know, very feminist upbringing. All my role models were women, you know, because
Oh God,
I didn't
I
have a
feel
father.
for you.
Yeah, like so yeah, I grew up with all that feminist rhetoric, and I was pretty much a feminist all the way until high school. Because what happened in high school, you know, when those women started harassing me, and I kind of like saw how people were reacting to me. That's kind of where it's like, hey, wait a minute, feminism doesn't really seem like it cares about men too much. You know, I'm like, I'm over here
Nope.
like rah women, and like they're kind of like shitting on me, and then I was shifted more to like egalitarianism, but like you know women are still cool, right? I used to unironically watch Feminist Frequency. That's not a joke. I used to be, I used to be an Anita fan
Oh,
back in the day. That was
oh
before tropes versus
man.
women. So when Gamergate happened, I'm just like Anita. I remember her. I used to watch her stuff all the time, and like this is what's happening now. I'm just like, oh yeesh. So that's interesting, considering I would later go on to make a video bashing Anita's tropes versus women stuff, but it's just kind of interesting because it's those interactions that I've had with like you know feminists just shitting on men and stuff that kind of sent me down that the pipeline, the pathway to being a noticer, right? The path to being a syntho was because of just it was mainly Gamergate. That's kind of what was my awakening moment. It was like you know this a lot of this leftist stuff is like they're attacking my favorite hobby for like no reason. Let me look more into this, and that's when I found like Krogan and stuff, and you know the JQ happened. So it's like if Gamergate never happened, I don't think I would ever have become a Syncel because I would have had a reason to. Because that's kind of what made me realize that this is it's kind of something was up. But I find it interesting that you know you have a conservative background, so you kind of like started off like thinking what a lot of people would end up thinking years down the line. You know?
Yeah, well, we predicted the future. A lot of people are like, "Oh, maybe conservatives have a point," and they come over to our side because they're like, "Oh, wait, I could actually be much happier than living in a left-leaning thing where I'm just a mental patient with blue hair complaining about communism." It's just like I don't know what's going on with this world. I feel like a boomer myself. I'm only 21, dude. Like I'm just like, what happened to everybody? Everybody's just nuts.
Oh man, 20.
So,
Yeah, I would think that you would be older based on what you're telling me about yourself because I was raised in the 90s and that's kind of when this stuff was not as loud, not as prominent. You know, I feel like things would probably be a little different. We might be on Twitter arguing with each other right now if we were around the same age. So it's kind of weird. I know they were really pushing all that blue shit on me. It's like holy shit.
Oh, you poor soul. I feel bad for you.
Oh yeah, I mean it just
No.
was. It is what it is. I mean that's kind of like an issue with single motherhood and stuff like that. Black communities is another reason why it's like, you know, when someone says something negative about black people, I don't just immediately chimp out, because I know from experience that there's some truth to that, some unsettling truth to the black quote unquote community and black culture, so to speak, where it's kind of like I don't know, man. I think I've seen enough episodes of the Boondocks to tell you that yeah, I've lived that stuff. Okay, like black people have some really weird cultural things that need to be addressed for the betterment of our people, so to speak. You know, it's like have you ever heard of like Thomas Sowell or Tommy Sotomayor that like criticize a lot of like bad trends, you know, and child abandonment and stuff. You know, I'm not surprised that Low Tier God is getting outed for abandoning his daughter, because of course, the black man doesn't stick by his daughter's side. That's kind of how I got into abstinence myself. It has more to do with my upbringing, because I saw how it affected myself, and it's like, well, I don't want to do that to anybody else. So I kind of
Yeah, for
like
real.
decided that, you know, I would sever the chain, I would stop the cycle of abandonment, and only agree to sex and stuff. I have to actually commit to a family if I ever had one.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been this way, and that's why it angers me when the Synthetic Man fans are calling me like a traitor and that you were just doing this for attention and stuff like that. It's like, no, I've always been like this. It's just you guys haven't noticed, I guess, or maybe you guys just try to project yourself what I was onto what you thought I should be. Because I've always been this way. I've always been critical of things I like. I've always been critical of things around me, and all because I had a different opinion, everybody turned their back on me. Like, that's no different than the lefties that they criticize. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's why I had to leave the community. Like, I just, and, like, you know, these, if my dad knew who I simped for like 2 years, he probably beat my ass. That's for sure.
I
If
mean,
I
it's not.
married Synthetic Man, my dad would have abandoned me. He wouldn't be like, oh my God.
Oh,
You couldn't have gone for a Christian, blonde hair, blue eyed German dude. You had to go for this Hitler ripoff.
who's
Oh,
Italian? He's not
is he
even
Italian?
German. I mean, there's something about being Italian. I thought Italians were closer to the Jews than Germans are. I mean, I don't know. I didn't.
What if he was Jewish? What if Synthetic Man took a DNA test? He was like, oh my God, I'm 60% Jewish. Oh no.
Oh yeah, like when Cartman figured out he was part Jewish.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm Jewish.
I mean, I wouldn't really be all that surprised. You know, like so many. You would be surprised how many white nationalists are brown. That's what I've been noticing too, in the simp cell community. A lot of these nat socks are like, you're not even white. You know, we had this one Mexamut who was getting on my case for like doing hentai and stuff, and it's like, oh, what you do is immoral. You're evil, and it's just like you're talking about like how white people like are like need to reproduce and everything. I'm just like, why are you not having children? It's like, oh well, you know, only white people should be having children because, you know, I'm Mexican, and like I shouldn't be spreading my genes, but you should like go get a girlfriend and stop being a virgin and stop looking at prawn because you need like a woman. You need to have sex so you can become an adult. And I'm just kind of like, dude, you're really gonna call me evil for like drawing pictures of anime girls, really? And the kicker, the the twist is that he's a Mexamut telling me this shit. Like, you've got to be kidding.
I mean, I don't I don't like prawn, but I don't know. I think prawn kind of damages your brain if you go overboard with it, but whatever, you know. And that's funny too because I had this one comment in one of my videos where this guy was like, why do you have the Fujoshi Queen thing in your other videos? I thought you were religious." And I'm just like, Well, it was a joke because people in my Discord thought I was a Fujoshi for some reason. I guess because I'm a gamer girl. I don't know why, but it was just for a joke. And then he said, "Ha Fuda synthetic man will run the world." I'm just like, so it's not okay for me to like Fujoshi, but it's okay for him to like gay prawn. Okay, whatever. It's just this hypocritical thing that I don't like. And I'm not even into Fujoshi. It was played off as a joke because and he also said, "Why does my character have big tits?" And I'm just like, "Well, that's part of the joke. Like the character is supposed to look like the character that I have is supposed to look like a typical Fujoshi gamer girl, right winger, whatever. She's supposed to be like a I guess a guy's wet dream of a right winged gamer girl. So she's got the big tits and stuff. So and she's got like the bun hair, the messy hair, and the black hoodie, and it's just like when I was making this character, I was like, how can I make her look obnoxiously like right winged ethotty as possible? And that's what I came up with. So that's
But
she's a
that
right winger
but
who is a ethot.
that's part of the problem though, because it's like when you
What's the
did that,
joke?
it's like, is that like supposed to be a joke, or are you just trying to like do that
Yeah.
to get attention? It's like I'm
No.
I'm only pretending to be an ethot, guys. It's like
No,
what?
she's not like she the joke the joke in my mind is because I'm a right winger who looks nothing like how you would think a right winger would look, and that's who the character's supposed to look like. She's a freaking psychotic right winger who looks like somebody you would see on like Rule 34, but that's not because the character is supposed to kind of look like me. She's got the glasses and the black hoodie, and that's about it. I don't have bun hair because I can't do that hairstyle, but like that was the joke in my head, and she even wears like those little like motorcycle gloves because that's what some people use when they draw. Because I like to draw on like a tablet, and that's what I use to keep the pen like straight. But the joke in my mind was that she's just a right winger who looks like that's also why she's like a VTube avatar because it's supposed to give you the impression like, oh god, she's like gonna do like the little lolly voice and ask for money, but she just sounds like me who is spouting off right winged ideology. Like that's kind of the joke in my mind, but I understand people don't really understand it that deep because it was in my head. So people are probably just thinking, oh, she made a big titty VTuber to get attention. It's like, nah, it was just more of like a like what persona can I have that's funny in my head? And I just did feel like drawing a new avatar. So I was just like and I also thought being a VTuber would be kind of funny. So it wasn't to get attention because I even said in that video I'm not making any more synthetic moon videos. Like that was gonna be the only one because I know a lot of people were asking around the community why I left because there were a lot of people who were asking. This guy Swan made a video called "And a Waifu Quits," and there were people who were asking like, "How come you left?" and like, how come she left or whatever. And then I was just like, you know what? All my viewers are coming back somehow. I think they just filtered out newest or something. So I'll make a quick video explaining why I left the community. It's gonna be unscripted, but it's gonna get some of the points I already had out and have a little picture of synth on the table because he'll never leave my heart no matter what. So I don't know, man. It was just a whole big joke in my head, and I don't think anyone's gonna get it. So who knows? Maybe somebody will put the pieces together, but I doubt it.
Really? Why synth? How is he cute? Like I
He
don't know.
is.
Are
He's kind
you
of cute.
sure? Like you couldn't simp for anybody else? I mean, I guess because I'm a guy, I don't get what's attractive about him.
Well, he's freaking. Oh, well, he's not base anymore, but he's kind of cute, and he wears a beanie, and he's got facial hair, and he looks like kind of a cute doomer, I guess. But
Uh,
he's also like admirable because even though look, some of his beliefs are stupid, but they're funny, and even if he spouts off nonsense, at least it's admirable that he's just putting out his beliefs, even if they're dumb, right? Like I always think that's admirable to some degree, even though I feel like some of his content is just there to get views, like this Fallout videos, which I feel like he just did for attention. I seriously think that those videos are rage bait. There's no way he got the lore wrong that bad in certain areas. Like he complained about the ghoul not eating or drinking, and then you play Fallout 2, and you're like, oh well, there's been a ghoul in there who's been there for like 5 years, no water or food. What do you got to say to that, huh? So he clearly doesn't know enough about the lore, or he just kind of ignores it. Yeah, that's another problem I have with his videos. He just got the lore wrong multiple times. And no, everybody was just sheep in the comments being like, "Oh yeah, Synthetic Man, you're right, totally." And I'm just like, "Okay, whatever." So, I don't know, man. But Synth is kind of cute. Can't lie.
I mean, if it's about the facial hair, I have way more facial hair than he does, and I even have a BBC. What the hell? I don't
He's kind of
understand.
cute. Okay, there was this really cute thumbnail that George made on one of his videos where it was Synthetic Man smiling while holding his dog in his hand. And I remember seeing that thumbnail and I was like, oh my god, Synthetic Man is like the cutest guy I've ever seen right now because of that thumbnail. Like, he is so cute. He's cute. I don't think he's that, like, handsome, but he is kind of cute. Especially when he smiles. And I hate that in the future he's going to shave his hair because that's, like, that will make him not as attractive anymore, but.
Wait, he said he was gonna shave his head, even though he didn't like lose the Dragon's Dogma 2 a bit.
He said at some point he was going to shave his head. I don't know if he's still going to do it, but he said at some point he was going to do it. I don't know when. I hope he never does because his hair is beautiful.
I know he was gonna shave his head because of if Dragon's Dogma couldn't allow you to make a waifu character, but he ended up making some kind of chudette character, like basically. Oh wait, I think he was going to shave his head, and then what? I think what happened is that Synth Mom stopped him from doing it. I think that's what happened, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yes, Synth Mom. Oh my god.
But
Dude, I
everybody
can't.
wants support for some reason.
Is she. I can't believe she had blonde hair. I did not expect that. I was like, damn, what does his brother look like? Is he the perfect specimen? Is he the perfect German specimen? I want to know.
Maybe that's where
It's-
all the Aryan worship comes from. Is because he wants his mother's Aryan genes, but they skipped over him. I mean, come on, his hair isn't blonde. I don't understand. Like,
I think Synthetic Man is kind of cute. I remember seeing his mom in like a screenshot. I didn't see her on stream. I just saw her in like a screenshot, and I'm just like, that's what she looks like. That's not what I pictured. But that's the only woman he loves, I guess, is his mother. I remember talking in the Discord one time. I was like, I want a Synthetic Man anime, and then there were some people who were like, well, what would it be about? And I just said, two Doomers meet up and they plan to destroy humanity. So they hate humanity. That's the plot. And it's a comedy. I don't know. I would love a Synthetic Man anime. I think that'd be pretty funny. Doomer-san.
oh man, the world sucks because I'm ugly and my mom set me up to fail. Because that's basically where most Doomers come from. I mean, come on, that's what I keep hearing is looks maxing and like the family pill, but it's like I don't know. I mean, I guess because I'm kind of a weirdo. Obviously, that's how I ended up in the fucking sim cells to begin with, being a fucking mental cell. So I just don't get all of the craving for female validation. But when it comes to like being the whole like outcast thing, you have to keep in mind like why do you even want to be accepted in some of these groups in the first fucking place? The way these people act. I don't know. It just kind of feels like it goes back to what I said earlier about people lashing onto certain ideologies and stuff as an excuse. I think a lot of what we're seeing has more deep rooted issues, and those issues might come more so from the degradation of traditional values more so than anything else. Because you had talked about women being more feminine and guys being the hunters and stuff. I think the subversion of gender roles has left a lot of young people without a sense of purpose because it used to be back in the day, you were born the son of a blacksmith and you would take over the blacksmithing business. Your father would just pass it down to you. Now you're like born, and if you're black, you're born into a single mother household, and you're just expected to figure it out. And everyone's doing the same thing, and now men are competing with women for jobs that are supposed to be for men. but not any of the hard jobs like construction or sewage work because that's icky, ill. Get that away from me. You guys can do that, but I want the cushy CEO's position. So now you're stuck doing all this menial labor shit, and yeah, like men aren't really expected to be men anymore. And then if they do try to be men, it's toxic masculinity. So there's a lot of antagonism towards men's natural inclinations toward things, and it's not like they like like teaching you people to respect women and stuff like that. That's not like, oh, you shouldn't respect women. You should definitely respect women. If anything, I would argue that the sexual liberation movement stuff has, like, there's a lot of things that do kind of encourage not just like voyeurism but just a general disrespect of women, because when people talk about, oh, I need to get laid, I need to get pussy in order for to me to feel validated, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't really sound like you deserve it because it doesn't really sound like you respect women enough to actually have that, right? But yeah, and I think that that's where a lot of it comes from, is that a lot of people are just kind of lost now in the current year events.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there was this. God, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Um, I actually remember talking with a feminist one time in robotics class, and she was talking about how, oh, women can do anything men can do or whatever, right? Because we were in history class, and my teacher was going over the like how men would give their women a vacuum for Christmas or something, and which I find kind of funny. But she was like saying, "Oh, women can do anything men can do," and I'm just like, "Okay, so go to a construction site and lift up a piece of wood." And then she was like, "Well, that's different. That's a man's job." And I'm just like, "But you just said women could do anything men can do, so why is that the man's job?" And then she said, "Well, it's just because I'm not interested in doing that work or whatever. And it's just, she's just like proving my point that, men and women are not the same at all." And I literally had that moment happen to me where I couldn't open a pickle jar and I had to get my man to do it because I couldn't do it. And then it's all these little moments that I realized throughout my life how men and women are so different. Like they're different psychologically and biologically. And the fact that women will say, "Oh, we can do anything men can do," but if you tell them, "Well, go do some bricklaying, go do some construction work, go do plumbing or sewering or whatever, right? Get drafted, go to the army." And they'll be like, "Well, wait a minute." And I'll just be like, "Okay, get back in the kitchen then if you can't do whatever anything a man can do." So, yeah, I say that to women. I say get back in the kitchen. You think you're so much better than men, prove it. And if you can't, then get back to making crumpets. That's all I'm saying.
So is it true that you make the chocolate chip cookies like the grandma
Yep.
means you actually make the cookies?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I make the sandwiches every time my grandpa or whatever goes out to work outside. I'll make him a sandwich and give him a glass of water or tea, whatever he wants while he's working. Yeah, I make the sandwiches. I make him a sandwich. His favorite is turkey cheese, tomato, lettuce, and mayo, all on white bread.
Oh wow, we.
Yeah. You got yourself a true traditional woman right here. That's why I said that. Man, why didn't you say yes?
I mean,
Fool!
sheesh. Maybe I should start a synth like channel so I can find me a traditional woman to simp for me. Come on, like this is
Hey,
a.
you can try it. You'll find it. I came along, so
Oh
you'll find
man,
it.
I
Yeah,
don't
you
know,
missed
man.
out, synthetic man. I could have made you a sandwich.
I mean, but you don't have a penis. It wouldn't have worked.
I know. That's why I started drinking when he said he was in a Fuda. I just sat in my closet and I started drinking and I was actually crying because I was like, "Oh my God, my favorite man that I've been freaking fawning over for years is gay," and I was actually drinking heavily that night. I was actually sad. I was actually sad. Drinking hardcore whiskey, man. That was a very depressing moment. I can't believe that he's in the Fuda, man. Like that is so sad to me. It ruins the fantasy, man. It ruins the fantasy so hard.
Well,
So
that's unfortunately the case with a lot of YouTubers. If these recent dramas with yet more pedo stuff going on with the doctor disrespecting this Chris whatever person, Mr. Beast friend. I haven't looked too much in that stuff. All I know is that look, the transgenderism and pedophilia tend they tend to go hand in hand for reasons that people don't want to discuss. Autogonophilia. I mean, I'm not saying anything, YouTube, but maybe like the audience should probably look into what autogonophilia actually means. But yeah, a lot of that stuff really is just a fantasy. That's kind of why when channels like yours, when you do the whole female sim thing for sims, it's hard to chew through the sarcasm to really figure out to see like what's genuine and what's not, because like I was saying before, I wanted your take on like ethos and stuff in gaming, because so many women do come into gaming spaces with the intention to basically just subvert all that shit in to make it about themselves, whether it's for money or attention or both. And it's a sins of the father type of situation, or I guess sins of the mother in this case, where it's like women come into a space, they tee-hee their way to victory, using their tits to get attention from men, and then someone like you comes along. It's like the boy who cried wolf. Like we don't. It's hard for us to tell the difference between an actual like a girl who's a gamer and a gamer girl. Like how do we even tell past a certain point? So
well,
it's
just by their attitude, man. Like I mean, I've said this so many times throughout my entire channel career. Like, I've been playing games since I was 7 years old. I hate all this leftist stuff that I've been, and I know it's hard to prove it because a lot of men have trust issues with women in the gaming space. I get it, but I don't know, man. There's more of me out there. It's just hard to know who's what, and I get it. I really do. Like, I know I won't completely understand it, I guess, because of my woman mind, but I do get it. It is hard to know who's real and who isn't, but I would trust. I I just I don't think it's easy to trust synthetic man anymore, especially when you brought up that Baldur's Gate 3 thing. And I remember when he gave Baldur's Gate 3 a good score, but gave Armored Core 6 a lower score. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you doing? Because Baldur's Gate 3 has everything you complained about in other games you called woke. Why are you giving Baldur's Gate 3 such a pass? You know? And that's when I started to not really trust him as much because I realized where he was going. And then he made the Fuda video, where I saw the Fuda video and I was like, "Oh no." And then the Fallout videos came out and I was like, "Oh no."
Oh, that's right. I
So,
forgot. You learned about the Fuda thing like way after the fact, because I'd known about that for like a year or so, I think. Because if I remember correctly, he mentioned the whole thing about being in the Fuda. That happened like during one of the God of the Boar of Snore Kuknarak streams. So I was surprised that was like new information.
well, I when I first heard that he was like talking about Fuda, I thought it was a joke. I was like, "No, there's no way the man in my dreams is into that shit." And so then I saw Carl Sama's video and I was like, no, no, no. And I watched it and I started crying. I actually cried and that's when I started drinking. I was like, no,
Oh, that's the
no.
funniest shit.
It wasn't funny for me. I was sad. Like the
Like
man of my dreams is gay. uh,
he spouts Nat Sock talking points. I mean, what were you expecting? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. I just thought he was like I knew he was nuts, but he was funny nuts, and I could see myself getting along with him. But that he came out with this, and I was like, oh no! And that's when it was the last straw for me was the Fuda shit. And then he came out with those Fallout videos, and I was like, oh my god, okay, this is over. It's over. I mean, it's been over since Baldur's Gate 3, but at least it wasn't as bad, you know.
Mm,
But
to be fair with the
uh,
Baldur's Gate video, I understood why he gave it a high score, because he was giving it a high score for its gameplay in spite of its politics, and Armored Core 6 getting a low score was because of how he felt about the gameplay. Like, he was trying to review those games, for their gameplay. Like, because when he does a review, I will say, when the reviews are good, and I'd say most of them are pretty good. Like, he will go on a schizo tangent like he did with Tears of the Kingdom, but the majority of that review was about the game itself. So, ultimately, when he gives a score, like, the score doesn't seem to really be affected by the politics in the game unless it's like really, really egregious or upsetting to him, like, say, like Last of Us 2, where he just shat on it for its story and didn't even play the game when talking about how he just didn't want to support Last of Us 2 and how terrible it was. So I understand what he meant by that, and I don't necessarily think it's inconsistent to be like, "Oh, Baldur's Gate's a fun game," and maybe if you don't want the politics to ruin it for you, you can play it and stuff, right? However, my whole thing when it comes to that is that the JQ rhetoric is been so ingrained into his content now that whenever he makes an exception for woke shit in a game, and like, or like, he'll make exceptions here, and then the next minute it'll be like, oh, this game is like super progressive and you shouldn't buy it. Like the recent video he did on some woke sweet baby black woman war game or something that just came out. I don't
I
even
didn't
remember the
even
name of
I
it.
didn't even watch it because I was like, I don't care about the game, so I didn't care about it. But I see that's an example of just looking at it, you can tell it's woke just by how the characters are designed and everything. Like I immediately, just when I saw the preview that he put in that post, I was like, oh no, I don't even care. I don't want to suffer through this. But I don't know. I just the Boulder. That's why I said the Baldur's Gate 3 thing. It's bothersome, but it's not the end. It's when he came out with the Fuda crap, and then he made this follow videos, and I was like, okay, it's over. It's officially over. We're not getting the old Synthetic Man back. It's over, and that's what really disappointed me. But he still got the sheep with him, so that's fine. And I'm sure. What's funny is that if he came out with those follow-up videos,
Hmm. Hello.
hold on a second. Hold on
Oh,
a second.
oh, no problem. All right. Looks like we're going pretty well so far. Well, I'll take this little intermission to say to any synth cells listening that this conversation may not. Oh, yeesh.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
Oh
Just
man.
cut that out. Sorry. Sorry. I am so sorry. This is what happens. You got people living with you. Um, I don't even know where I was. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
It
you're
was
talking about like
embarrassing.
it's being over for synths because of the Baldur's Gate
It is
review,
over.
and
No,
and
I didn't say that.
a game being woke, like you can tell just by looking at it and stuff.
Hey, I didn't say it was over with the Baldur's Gate 3 thing. I said it was over when he said the Fuda stuff. That's when it
Oh,
was
well,
over.
yeah, okay, yeah, over. Like, it wasn't over just yet, but it was the beginning of the end, basically.
Yeah. Let's just say that whiskey is half gone now because of that. But I don't know what else to say with that, man. I just because you said, give you examples of the synthetic meat community being sheep, and that's probably the biggest examples was just when he said stupid shit and when he criticized other pieces of leftist art, but he himself is into art that isn't straight, and they still praise him. I'm just like, are you guys like, have you guys lost your mind? Like,
Well,
I don't know.
to be fair, I don't think anyone like praises him. It's not like, oh yeah, Fuda is awesome, right? It's more like
That's not true. It's not true. I've seen so many comments where they praise him for liking
are you
Fuda.
sure that those aren't being
No,
sarcastic? 'Cause I just get the feeling
no,
that,
dude.
oh man, really, see, it would be cool if you had kept receipts of that shit, because if you had like receipts on like just videos like showcasing like the comments that you were talking about, then I don't think anyone could really argue against that, because it's not really an issue of, oh no, Anna's lying, that totally never happened. It's just like, well, I would need some kind of evidence, some clarification that happened. But
Well, one of the oh god, I wish I kept my old freaking videos. And there was this guy, Twan, who had a whole archive of my videos, but I guess he took it down. But in my video where I was discussing about the problem, because I just figured out he was like really into Fuda, like it wasn't a joke, and that's when I kind of start crying in the video. I was like, "Oh my god, why would you do this?"
Well,
But
I thought that
anyway,
was you fake crying, like a
no,
joke.
it was real,
That
kind
was
of,
real, really.
kind of. Because I got over the crying, but I was still like upset over it, so I was kind of putting like a voice, but I was really upset. But anyway, in that video, if you looked at the comments, there were people who were like, "What's wrong with him liking Fuda? That's just what he's into. He's still a Sincel." And there's all these other people who were saying like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with it." And I'm just like, "Oh my god, like
Oh,
you
you
people
definitely
are
should have
nuts."
screenshotted that shit because
I
I
know.
saw that video, but I didn't look at the comments because I just watched the video. I even watched it
I'll
on like
have.
Discord. I didn't like watch it directly on YouTube, and I figured that was all she wrote. It was just like, oh, that's funny that she had that reaction, and just went on about my day. But I didn't know there were like a bunch of people in there that
Yeah,
were
they
really
caught it.
capping for.
Well, never mind. Doesn't matter because the videos are gone. But yeah, I do remember a lot of people in the comments were like saying, "Oh, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it," or blah blah blah. And I just said like in that video I released recently about Synthetic Man, there were people who were criticizing me for possibly liking Fujoshi, but it's okay for him to like Fuda. I would argue Fuda's worse than
Well,
Fujoshi.
Fuda's gay. I mean,
I,
for Joshi, yeah, because that's because well, Yaoi is like two men, right? So it's a woman getting off to two men fucking each other, which like I mean that's gay, but like it's like
a
the
woman.
the fetish of like a guy with like two girls, right? Two girls making out or something. But you know what? It's not. It's not a guy with a vagina. It's not that. It would be like the only equivalent of that would be a man who has a vagina instead of a dick of balls, and then a woman being on there. It's like no, it's not. It's not bad that I'm into this, right? It's not gay that I'm only attracted to men who have female genitalia. That's the only real equivalent to it.
I don't even know where the Fujoshi thing came from because I never said in a video or a stream I liked Fujoshi. I don't even know where that came from. I think people just assumed it just because I was a gamer girl. And, oh, I think people thought I was into Fujoshi because I remember reading this old Synthetic Man fan fiction written by this one girl named what was her name? Pop something, and she wrote a fan fiction that was was between Synthetic Man and the Act Man. I remember reading it on stream one time and I couldn't finish it because it was so freaking gay.
Bro,
But there was actual sex in it, and it was really hilarious.
what the fuck? Okay, pause. So you mean to tell me that there are more than women than just you who are simping for synth?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. There was a, and I hate that it's gone because AO3 changed its policies again recently, where they're trying to limit a lot of adult content on it for some reason. So even though there's tons of like prawn stories on there, but whatever. And so it got deleted, sadly. But it was just a three pages of Synthetic Man and the Act Man having sexual stuff happening. And the Act Man was more of the masculine one, and Synthetic Man was more of the like naggy wife. Like he was like just a tsundere asshole to the Act Man. And I remember reading it on stream and I couldn't finish it. It was so cringy and bad I could not finish it. And I think that's why people thought I was a Fujoshi, because they probably thought I read that stuff, which I didn't. I just thought it was funny. Because she contacted me on Discord. She was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey," and we were the only two like synthetic and fangirls or something, and we just and then we started talking about fan fiction or something, and she said she wrote fan fiction because I told her I used to write fan fiction back in the day, and then she showed me this, and I was like, "Oh my god." And she updated it recently before it got deleted. It was really funny. Synthetic Man and the Acme got married in that page, and I was actually clapping. I was like, "Hell yeah!" So
This is the
very
goofiest
interesting.
shit. This is
It was real, dude. It was real. It was really funny. They got
my.
married in the third chapter.
You've got to be kidding me with this. And all this stuff about gay men and like I feel like in the background, Sweet Baby Inc. is just cranking out another steaming pile of shit. While we all argue about whether or not Fuda is gay, and now they're here taking a chisel and just smashing the hell out of Jean Grey's face for this new Wolverine game. Oh man, nothing ever happens. Nothing. War never changes. Oh my god.
Gay. Gayness never changes.
Oh man. So did she also have a YouTube channel by any chance?
No, no, the only thing she had was a Tumblr, which I can't access anymore. I don't know why. And she had a AO3. I think I can't access Tumblr anymore because I got banned for some stupid reason. I was calling out like My Little Pony people at one point. But
Calling
yeah,
out
she used to have
pedophiles. I don't like that.
a she used to have a Tumblr, and then she had AO3, and unfortunately because of AO3's policies, the fan fiction got deleted. And I asked her, I said, "Are you please make more because I think they're really hilarious." They got married in the third chapter. What kind of like in the first chapter it was kind of well paced. Like, you had them already living together and then some stupid anime bullshit happens where they fall on each other on top of the bed or something. Oh, I remember that. The Act Man fell on Synthetic Man's Spyro printed bed. I remember that line very clearly. And the second chapter was just totally like it just rushed into the sex really quickly. And in the third chapter they just got married, and then I'm just like, okay, well that was very disappointing. And I remember reading all of this on stream, and I wish I still had that stream up because it was really funny. But enough about that. We ain't talking. I don't know if you want to talk about that anymore. But it just popped in my head because that was a very interesting point in the synthetic man community. Was that fan fiction at one point? And I remember someone left a comment saying about how great the characters are or something. It was really stupid. A couple of people left comments under that video.
Oh man, that's wild. Yeah, I mean, the archive I got, I think that might be from the Swan guy. I mean, it sounded like he made a video about it. That's where he linked to the video archive. But I don't think any of your streams are in that archive. I can double check, but
Oh,
I would have known based on like file size if any of those videos were the stream. I think it's just all the videos that you uploaded.
oh man. I wish you could find that stream. It was really funny. I was trying very hard to keep it together.
Yeah, I was only ever in one of your streams when you were playing a Kirby game. I think it might have been Nightmare in Dreamland, one of those Kirby games, and I'd
I
asked
think
you.
it was Magic Mirror. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, I
Something
think
like
it might
that.
have been Amazing Mirror. Because that's the one where I had asked you about your thoughts on EFAP.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah, because that's all you said was I don't like them. I was like, I was kind of hoping for more in-depth response to just I don't like them.
Okay, they're not funny. I don't like them, and they have one furry dude on there who criticizes people for being dumb, but he himself is a furry guy with a dildo in the background. I don't think you have any right to criticize anyone else for that kind of right wing crap, but whatever floats your boat, man. I don't watch them. I don't care about them. But those are my thoughts. I don't like them. I don't watch them.
No,
And I only knew about them because of Synthetic Man. That's the only way I knew about these people.
not just furry, he's a zoophile. He commissioned people to do artwork of like dogs and shit. Like I
Oh,
have like because I remember I was sending that picture around to people when I was talking about possibly doing a video about that, but I had canceled it because the juice wasn't worth the squeeze back at the time. Because I didn't appreciate how disingenuous Mahler and his group of masses were about the whole synthetic man thing, just basically misframing everything he was saying. It's like, oh, he made a dysgenics joke. That means he's a racist, right?
which he didn't do. That didn't happen. That was clearly a lie. Like people said in his Tears of the Kingdom review, he said anti-Semitic stuff, and I was like, no, he didn't. That's a lie. He didn't say that at all. What are you guys talking about?
Well, I
So,
mean, what if he did? So what?
what if he did? Yeah, like, even if he did, my problem with that was that people were just trying to say, oh, he said this and that, and then he didn't. And then they were saying, like, oh, he said that there's a reference to Baphomet, and then clearly, if you finish the video, he literally said, no, I don't actually think it's Baphomet. I just put that in there for the streamers. Like, he was just doing that for the meme. but people took that as like him saying the game is grooming kids or something, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. You didn't even. Oh God, man.
People say anti-Semitic as if if that's a reason, there's no reason to be upset about it. Not only that, you also have to consider like what do you even mean my Semite? Like, oh, you're anti-Semitic, because it's like if someone were to like go on record shitting on Christianity, there's no equivalent to anti-Semitic. What was it? Sacrilegious? Like you're not gonna get, no one's gonna get on your case like, oh my God, you're like anti-Christian. But you say something that's anti-Semitic, it combines religion with like an accusation of racism in a very weird way that makes me really question, like why is it that why do these people control so many media outlets? That seems really weird. Who really is Al Goldstein? Why is it that every other director is Jewish? I don't. It just seems, it just seems like when you accuse people of anti-Semitism, it kind of just reinforces the whole like Jewish conspiracy thing, which is why I don't entirely discount it. I just think that the only types of people that get involved in that type of conspiracy theory are usually people with nothing better to do. Like you wouldn't be doing this if you had an Aryan woman, a big-breasted, blonde, blue-eyed Aryan woman around your arms. You wouldn't be talking about this.
You know, the next thing I actually think I want to talk about, because it's been brewing in my head, is how he complains about Lucy from the Fallout show being a Mary Sue, which I don't agree with. I think she's poorly written, but I don't think she's a Mary Sue because she gets beat up. She gets her fingers sliced off at one point. She messes up constantly, and she has to be saved by men constantly. Like I don't. A Mary Sue character is if you took Kirito from Sword Online and just made him a woman. That's a Mary Sue, where it's like nothing bad happens to them. All the women or men love them for no reason. They're just super powerful. Barely anything bad happens to them. If anything, they got like conveniences that happen that just make them ultimately powerful. Lucy is not like that at all. And what I find a little funny in your video is that you said that because you said, oh, you brought up Kill la Kill and like how that story is just better like written or something, which I agree with, but then you think about how Ryuko beats up the men constantly. She's super overpowered, and it's just a female empowerment story, but done right, I guess, is what you're saying. And I agree. I do think it's a better, well written main female empowerment story. But in the Fallout show, I don't think Lucy is a Mary Sue character, and I think she's an okay female character. I don't think she's that amazing. But I don't agree with Synthetic Man's point that this is a female empowerment show. Um, I think Kill la Kill is more of a female empowerment show than the Fallout show is. So, what's your opinion on that? Like, why do you think Kill la Kill isn't woke, but with its female characters, but the Fallout show is, despite Ryuko beating up men all the time and being way more powerful and having way more conveniences happen and stuff and
Yeah,
go
I understand what you mean by that. Yeah, because there's nuances to that position that weren't going to be covered in a video like that. Of course, I just mentioned that and gloss over it because the point I was making is that typically when they do like animes like Soul Eater and stuff that have female leads, the way it's written is very different because a lot of Western media like Captain Marvel and stuff like that, it's usually written in a way to not just like empower the women, but specifically to like disparage men. The men are icky and sexist and stupid and weak, and here comes the super confident, super uber strong woman to just dance over the men. It's the increasingly iconic imagery of like a scrawny, not fat or anything, but just kind of a slender woman like Black Widow or something, just being the ever loving shit of like five big muscular dudes because she's like specially trained, and there's like no way that she'd lose to somebody like the fucking Hulk or some shit, right? It was kind of like is meant to make the woman look super badass by making men look weak and stupid. I think, ironically enough, one of the best examples of this, I would say, came from Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, of all things. There's this one scene in the game where all the characters fall down this pit, and Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles all fall on their ass, or I think Tails was in that scene. Basically, all the men in the scene fall on their ass, right? They fall on their fucking faces, and Amy is the only one who like stylishly and super cool like lands on her feet. It's kind of like that whole scene kind of like visually encapsulates how these games and movies and shows and stuff in America tend to be written now, when it, written from a specifically from a feminist perspective. But I would say that when it comes to a lot of Eastern stuff, like stuff from Japan, or especially from like Korea, they tend to write their female characters more as like characters first, or I guess for lack of better words, for the male gaze. I guess that's my female or female feminist. That's my feminist upbringing talking, because of course I know all about the feminist talking points about the male gaze and stuff. But basically, right, they make those characters like Ryoko and the bikini tops and stuff for guys to enjoy, and it's not necessarily meant to have like a feminist message behind it. But also when it comes to like women's fighting abilities and stuff like that, there usually isn't any subtext about disparaging men or making men as a whole look weak, or a specific man like look weak or stupid. That's kind of like why so we all the Sim cells being fans of like Buck Breakers, right? But we've never had a conversation about the time Android 18 beat the ever loving shit out of Super Saiyan Vegeta. What was that? What did Akira Toriyama mean by that? Like, it's like this blonde Aryan Ubermensch woman just beats the ever loving shit out of Vegeta in his most powerful transformation yet. And I don't hear anyone ever talk about how 18 is a Mary Sue or a feminist power fantasy for beating the living shit out of a guy, because it wasn't written in a way where it frames like men as toxic or anything. Like they usually have it so that the men and the women are kind of like in the same like sphere, assuming it's a shonen that even has women in it, because most of those shows do tend to have men as the male characters, and men are the ones doing all the fighting, so that usually isn't even an issue. So that's also a thing. But like if you've watched like shows like Bleach or something, yeah, like there's Soifon, and Yoruichi was shown to be incredibly powerful and competent, but it was never at the expense of a man. So going on to the like, why is Lucy a Mary Sue in the Fallout show? The thing about the Fallout show, to my understanding, like what Synth was arguing, is that you have these oofy doofy guys that are getting smacked around by Lucy and shit. So even though she loses or has challenges from time to time, her empowerment has less to do with her as a character and more like her as a figure. It's kind of hard to really put into where I'm trying to think of a way to explain without just copping out, right? Because like the way I see it, it's a similar situation as with Rey in Star Wars, right? Because people would argue up and down that Rey is a Mary Sue character, and I would argue that there is just as much of an argument to say that Rey isn't a Mary Sue than she is. Like, oh, how is Rey so smart that she knows how to fix the Millennium Falcon? It's like, we can't have a woman with flaws because women are so cool, and we have to have our feminist power fantasy. But they also put her on a junkyard planet, so you would expect her to know how to work with machines because she's grew up with machines her whole life. But did they have her grow up with machines so she can be a feminist empowerment character, or is that just part of her character? So a lot of this, I feel like, kind of boils down to execution and intent. And when you look at a lot of media, even stuff that the sim cells like Jack and Daxter, you can make an argument that Kira, being a super smart tech whiz, is kind of unrealistic. She's a woman who's super good with machines. When in the context of the Jack and Daxter universe, she created cars. She created the first Zoomer. Because you got to remember, Zoomers didn't exist until she built the first one in the first game. And now, when they travel to the future in the second game, everybody has Zoomers. I'm pretty sure all those Zoomers are based off of the design that she invented because she made the first one. But nobody talks about that, So it kind of depends. So I'm not necessarily saying that either one of you are wrong as far as like whether or not this Fallout character is or isn't a Mary Sue. I'm just trying to explain like why someone would say a character is or isn't a Mary Sue, because I've had like a similar conversation with someone when I was like arguing of them about Boar of Snore Ragnarok about like Freya, like, oh, Freya's not a Mary Sue, and it's just like, well, Freya, like she headlocks Kratos, and like she's in some of the same power scaling as Kratos, but I never outright said that that was bad. So of course, because I'm arguing with an EFAP enjoyer, they just put words in my mouth and assumed they're calling the black guy racist. That's very interesting, but the point I was trying to make to that psychopath was that you can't really deny that Freya has these powers and advantages and stuff that put her on the same league as Kratos. The question then becomes whether or not that's actually a bad thing, or what's the intent behind that. And because people they use I think the term Mary Sue has kind of lost all of its meaning, and it kind of started with Ray because I get it, right? The idea behind it is this character hasn't earned their power, so to speak, their strength through like a genuine like character arc, the same way someone like Luke has, who is shown to be struggling and stuff. He didn't just come out the gate like super powerful, even though he's technically a chosen one character, but that's not how he's portrayed in the first movie, as opposed to like Rey, who turned out to be a Palpatine and all this other kind of weird stuff where she's just like destined to be super powerful. So when people talk about Mary Sue characters, it really just boils down to a couple of things, like because you mentioned Kirito earlier from Sword Art, who's good at gun gale even though he's never played it in the second season. That made no sense. That should have been an excuse for him to get nerfed when he went to a completely different game and had to use a completely different skill set, but he's just magically good at gun gale too. But I digress. So it really just kind of boils down to a couple of factors of, does this female character have to shit on men to make herself look good? That's strike one. Strike two, do they show actual growth for this character, or is the character just come out the gate super fucking strong for no reason? And I guess I would say the third thing is, do we see any kind of character progression, like actual like character flaws or anything that would have like a meaningful impact? I guess, like, does the character have any meaningful flaws or mistakes? Which that kind of just sounds like me saying like the second point again. But when I say like, does this character like, I'm trying to make a distinction between like physical growth, like, oh, like they did this and that and they got like a new power up or something, or she gets like a new transformation form or something, versus like spiritual growth in a story, like a character changing their morals or their opinions or their perspectives, like character flaws and stuff like that. So as someone who's watched a lot of anime, I do find it kind of weird now when people talk about Mary Sue's, because I think about so many well-written female characters, and it's like, I never had this feeling that Bulma was a Mary Sue or that Chi-Chi was a Mary Sue because she's like the strongest human woman on the planet. Because why can't a woman be powerful in the context of this fictional story? So it's one of those things that I feel like needs more explanation behind whoever is making that case, that argument about whether or not a character is a Mary Sue or not. And when it comes to somebody like, say, like ER for example, he does these big video essays on stuff like Korra and Ray. These characters are supposed to be like Mary Sue characters, right? So at least when he says Mary Sue in that context, he gives an explanation. But due to the style of Synth's videos, he'll just say a character is a Mary Sue and not even really explain it very well. And I guess to finish off my point, because you're specifically asking for my take on it, I could like go into like an autistically long ramble of like character analysis for like specific characters and stuff, but I guess the short version, I don't know. I'm one of the few people who didn't really have a problem with Frey in Forspoken. I know you didn't like that character from my recollection. I
No.
remember you made a video complaining about her. But I don't really see it as too much of an issue. And it's really for me. It's for me personally. It's more of an issue of depth. I want to see the beginning, middle, and end of a character's story to really get invested in them. And I tend not to gravitate towards people who are too overpowered, don't have any kind of character flaw. Even if the character is like strong physically, if the story is more about character growth and physical growth, then like the meme that they're like super strong, like Saitama or something, isn't necessarily bad. Like my problem with Kirito is that Kirito doesn't really grow as a character all that much, and the fact that he's so overpowered, it's like I don't really get to see any real hero's journey. It's just a power fantasy that you project yourself onto. He's super cool and gets all the bitches, and he never loses. Well, I don't really want to watch the story of someone who never loses, right? And I don't even like hate Korra or anything. I think Korra is more of a missed opportunity. Like they had the framework for a really great sequel to Avatar by having this character that basically had to like get humbled because she's a prodigy and everything, and she's the Avatar and you have to deal with it. I don't think that's bad. It could have been a story about people who are gifted versus those who are not, like non-benders, and that could have been the direction that they took the story, and was why Amon was such a great first villain until they revealed that he was a waterbender and ruined everything. But like I feel like there's a distinction to be made between like, okay, they executed this poorly because they wanted to go for like a Mary Sue character, right? And then like saying it's bad because a woman has powers, period, because that implies that if a guy was written in a similar way, you wouldn't have a problem with it. So that's I don't know, maybe a little bit of my feminazi training is coming out when I say that. But yeah, it's I honestly don't understand sometimes when people say that stuff, because it really is an issue of the quality of the writing, and there should be more emphasis on how something is written and not just necessarily that they gave a woman powers. But I will say this, and then I'll stop rambling, is the problem why this keeps happening, and think like when talking about like media analysis and stuff like that, the reason why this becomes an issue is because things are so heavily politicized now. When you see a character like Freya in Ragnarok, or Frey in Forspoken, or Rey in Star Wars, there's a pattern with these naming conventions. All the women have bows and arrows for some reason. All the women are hunters for some weird reason. Like, I know the reason why progressives push that stuff into the media that we are having shoved down our throats, right? They're trying to subvert us. So even if taken in its own context, it's like, okay, this isn't really as progressive or well, like, it's not so bad, right? Taken by itself, you could say that the Fallout show isn't so bad, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum by itself. It exists with the Resident Evil show, which race swapped Wesker, and we gotta have it Wesker's daughters, and all these other shows that subvert the story to be about women, or force in gay politics and trans characters everywhere. So when people see that, it's almost like a Boy Who Cried Wolf situation, because someone could generally want to tell a story from a female perspective, and maybe they just fucked it up because they're not a good writer. But half the time when you see this shit, you already know the reason why the writing is fucked to begin with. It's because it's politically motivated, why they did it in the first place. So I think that's kind of the angle that Synth was coming from, and why he just, said it's a Mary Sue. Because, I mean, I just can't get the image of the pregnant Volt druller chick out of my mind when talking about that. It's like, yeah, a pregnant woman doesn't want to just get beat the fuck up by raiders, and if she has a machine gun, she's going to shoot back at you. But did they put that scene in because they wanted this? They're trying to tell like an organic story with this character, or is women can do anything men can do? So yeah, even if you're pregnant, you can still be badass. Like the whole pregnant Spider Woman thing in Spider Verse. Like why is the black Spider Woman, who this character is originally white in the comics, but not only did you race swap her to be black, you made her pregnant in the movie. Because of the whole pregnant Spider-Man comic, or like, why are we talking about a pregnant Spider-Woman? Why do we have pregnant Spider-Woman? Why do you have all these progressive writers putting these progressive stories in comic books and stuff? Like, we know how progressives already like took over the comic book industry. They completely killed that. So it's more of an issue of we don't say the quiet part out loud, because most people already know the types of people working at these studios who wrote that shit to begin with. All you have to do is look at the credits for like who wrote God of War Ragnarok and who wrote the Fallout show. And it's like, you know why that stuff is in there. And, since everybody, the cult of synth are all are on the same page, that part never really gets elaborated on, because it's like, we already know why it's there.
Well, uh, very interesting, by the way. That's why I was like really quiet. I was like, damn, I'm getting enlightened right now. But okay, so I'm gonna give you an example of something where it's like the female character is super powerful, but she's still not a Mary Sue because she's got to go through a very big challenge. And I know this is gonna be weird territory to go into, but I really enjoy what I'm reading right now. So there is this fucking amazing Fallout New Vegas fan fiction that is getting kind of a little traction right now, and I the only way you can do it is by getting it like a PDF or something on her goddamn uh fanfiction.net, which I hate. But the main character is a female version of Guts, basically. She went through a horrible, terrible, tragic life. She was captured by the Legion at one point, and she was betrayed by Kaiser because the whole story takes place after New Vegas, where it's like the Legion took over or something like that. So,
So she's Briar.
I guess.
Have you heard of a game called Solstice?
No.
Look up Solstice. You're basically describing Briar. She's just female Guts. Like, that's literally what she looks like. That's
Oh wait,
literally her
wait,
background. That's literally how she. I've been playing
wait,
through it. Yeah, like
wait,
it's
wait, wait. Hold on. Okay, hold on. So she's like, she even has a giant sword. Like when I was reading, I was like, oh come on, it's just Guts, but a woman. But anyway,
yeah.
so
Briar has a sword
so
too.
so the thing is that she's actually a cyborg. Like, so she found um her father was like a vault dweller at some point, and he was like a great scientist, and he was making this experiment to bring peace onto the world to make her this like killing machine. So from birth, she was this really powerful like android thing, but she has her brain, like her human brain is still there, but she's like a synthetic. And
Synthetic. Okay.
I know it sounds dumb, but the way it's written is really well done. But anyway, so she goes on this revenge to kill the whole entire Legion and to kill Kaiser, and she wants all this revenge, but it's like the way she did it is by giving away her humanity, and she's actually kind of the villain of the story because she kills all these Legion people, and then there is this one scene where a Legion asked her to spare him because he was like, I was enslaved. I didn't want to come like willingly and all this, and I'm sorry, and I'll like go away and you'll never see me again. And she fucking murders him. Like she cuts off his head, and she's like, no, like my goal is to kill all of you no matter what. And I'm just sitting there like, Jesus, man, like this is so freaking edgy. But okay, I just like that idea where it's like she's super powerful, but she's losing her mind. Like she's lost in this revenge that she's like probably killing Legion that didn't really do anything. They're just there because they were just enslaved, and she cares about nobody but her revenge. And it's not done yet. I only read like 10 chapters, but she's she's really powerful, but at the same time she's losing her humanity, and that's what makes her interesting. And Legate Lanius is the only one that can beat her up because he's this big strong dude with a lot of armor, which makes sense. She doesn't kill him, and that's like the version of Griffith in the story, I guess. But I think you can make a female character super powerful if you give her something else to work with. Like again, I think the idea of a woman that is super powerful, but her soul and everything is like pretty much gone, and she's nothing but a killing machine that even if someone asks her to spare them their life or whatever, they won't do it. Like that's like Joshua Graham. Like he's like this mean son of a bitch who killed a lot of people, and then you try to convince him not to kill Salt upon wounds because he'll be going against his religion or whatever by killing all these people or whatever, and it's like he becomes evil or something if you let him kill the guy. And I don't know. I don't think Lucy's a Mary Sue, man. Like I think Ryuko's more of a Mary Sue than Lucy is. I just don't think it's impossible to make a strong, powerful female character and not make her flawless, I guess, is what I'm trying to make my point here. But I don't want to spoil the fan fiction because it's so good. I'm just telling you what the character is. She's just guts, but maybe even more evil, maybe even more heartless. But
I mean, Guts had a reason. I mean, Guts got buck broken. You'd be evil too if you got buck broken same way he did.
I mean, I don't even consider him evil. I would just say he's like really brooding and dark. I mean, I don't blame him. You know, Griffith did horrible, horrible, awful things. Like
It was
he's
more than
like
just Griffith. They buck broke him. Oh man!
Griffith.
And then that part where he has to watch Kafka
Oscar.
Kaska get raped. They
That's another
forced him to
thing too.
watch.
Why isn't Casca like another character all y'all would have a problem with? She's a strong female black woman who can take them all them in, except Griffith. She even fucking takes guts on at one point. Like, I don't know, man. I'm just saying, like, if Berserk was made today, I'm sure Synthetic Man would think it's woke because it's like, oh, a strong female black woman, she can beat all the men. And I'm just
Oh,
like, Casca's so well written though, so who cares?
I imagine it's the same reason why Sim cells don't complain about Dragon Ball, because, like, why is Bulma so smart when she's a woman, and why is 18 beating the living shit out of Vegeta like that? I mean, I don't know, 18 is one of my favorite characters. I mean, come on, she's a blonde Aryan waifu. But, yeah, that's kind of what I mean, is like the way that stuff is written and the intent behind it, I think is more of the issue, because a lot of people, or I don't know, maybe I don't know, I can't tell who is actually a Nazi and who's just LARPing because they're gay and they don't want you to figure that out, so they pretend to hate black people, but and women. But a lot of people in this sphere, you probably did grow up watching Powerpuff Girls and stuff like that.
No, I didn't. I hated the Powerpuff Girls when I was
You
younger.
hated the Powerpuff Girls? I love the
I wasn't
Powerpuff Girls.
I wasn't into girly shows back then. I was more into like Teen Titans and stuff like that. I didn't care about Powerpuff
But it
Girls.
wasn't a
It was
girly
after my
show.
time.
That was the joke, is that they were like super cutesy kindergartners, but then they would like beat the shit out of people, and there was like
No,
blood.
I liked it when I got older. Like I didn't like it when I was like a little kid, but when I got older, I liked it. And I find it hilarious. I don't know if they did this intentionally, but the villain, like him, is like a flamboyant gay transgender guy or something like that, and he's like the devil. And I find that very hilarious in today's climate. But
No, they knew what they were doing. Why do you think he didn't show up in the reboot?
I know why he didn't show up in the reboot.
Exactly,
Oh,
because they wouldn't be able to
Powerpuff
get away
Girls!
with that.
I hate the Powerpuff Girls. I want them to die.
Oh man, Powerpuff Girls were so fucking hilarious. There was even an
He was my
episode
favorite character.
about identity politics where like Mojo identifies as like an endangered like species of ape or something, so he kept saying, "I'm being oppressed," and everybody would like turn on the Powerpuff Girls every time they tried to stop him.
Wasn't there a feminist episode in the
Oh
Powerpuff Girls?
yeah, that
Do you remember
episode with the Susan B. Anthony coins and stuff. The feminist villain who only stole Susan
that?
B. Anthony coins.
I remember when I saw that when I was like a teenager. I remember seeing that episode and I was like, "What the fuck am I watching? What is this? Is this like what?" And I think that's one of the worst episodes to me. Like the professor who was like their dad tells him to clean the room and they're like, "You clean it yourself. Us women don't belong to clean." And it's like, dude, he just asked you to go clean your room. What are you doing? And I'm glad they learned their lesson by the end, but I don't like that episode at all. I think it's very preachy, very political, and I don't like it at all. They literally steal Susan B. Anthony coins. You can't get more meta than that.
I think that was the point, though. The whole point of that
I don't.
episode was criticizing radical feminism and this idea that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. So they get together with this feminist villain that puts all this feminist rhetoric in their heads, and they start thinking in an antagonistic way towards boys. And then and the moral of the story was that real feminism is about equality with men and not superiority, and that's why they eventually beat her up and throw her in prison, and then she complains about the stripes making her look fat.
I like
So
that scene. I like that scene actually.
yeah,
I'm
that
not
was how the
saying it's
episode
like,
ended.
well, actually, now that I'm looking back on it, because it's been a while since I've seen it, I don't think it's one of the worst things ever. I just think it's like I think I just seen so many cartoons nowadays, especially the Amazing World of Gumball, where it's like they gotta get so meta. Like they literally made an episode where they were like, "Oh, women don't get paid as much as men," and they always put the male pictures on the manager wall, and us women don't get to be in like male meetings or something. It's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I work in real life. That never happens. Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. And then they try to like make this political episode, and I just hated it.
Yeah,
Like
see,
it's
that's the difference between modern cartoons and like the cartoons that I grew up with. The first time I noticed this was really in like Johnny Test, where the dad was the stay at home dad and the super busy
oh my god.
boss bitch mom and his super genius sisters, and that one episode they had about respecting the founding mothers of Pork Belly, because all the guys get all the credit, so we had to talk about the founding mothers, and Johnny had to be put in his place because he's an evil sexist piggy boy. Ironically enough, I don't think they ever made an episode about him being a woman, even though they had him become a suspiciously curvaceous adult woman in the opening every time. It's almost like you have pedos, creeps working on a lot of these shows. But anyway, point is, point is that that's where it kind of became more blatant. Where it's like after watching stuff like Powerpuff Girls, where the moral of the story was to not just shit all over men. Now you have these cartoons where the entire point was to shit on men, because that started to become a more prevalent way of thinking when these types of people entered in the entertainment industry and started putting their progressive crap into TV shows and movies and video games. So that's kind of why when talking about Mary Sue's, it's more of a subtlety in the differences of how it's written, right? Because you originally you had said that that Powerpuff Girl episode was like one of the worst because it was so preachy, but the way it was written and the intent behind it was the opposite of what a lot of movies and shows today now do with similar characters. Just flash forward to the Powerpuff Girl reboot, where they came up with some bullshit excuse about Miss Bellum wouldn't work in for our modern audiences, so they just wrote her out of the story and made the mayor seem like an incompetent buffoon that wasn't worthy of Miss Bellum. Like he was just holding Miss Bellum back, when the entire point of Miss Bellum was that behind every man was like a strong woman or something. Because that was, I mean, they didn't outright insinuate that they were in like a romantic relationship or anything, but like the mayor was very codependent on Miss Bellum. She was like this super attractive brown redhead chick, but she was incredibly intelligent and was often the voice of reason for the Powerpuff Girls. So they would go to her for advice and everything. Basically, she was like their mother figure, because they didn't actually have like a mom. It was always the professor, so they went to Miss Bellum as like their mom a lot of the time. And so but we since progressives don't see that, they only see like character designs and stuff. I didn't mean to ask you about how you feel about sexualized characters and like anime stuff, and you were talking about Kill la Kill, but just to finish the point I was making, since progressives don't see any of those nuances when how these characters are written, they just see attractive women bad, or they remove them, or take a sledgehammer and smash their face like they're doing the Jean Grey right now, make it all woke and safe and shit, and that's where you get like characters like Captain Marvel, where it's like I dare you to ask me about my feminist agenda, you male chauvinist pig. And we're expected to just eat that up, and that's happened so many times now that a terribly written character like Lucy in the Fallout show, the issue becomes, why is the character so terribly written? Is it poorly written because they just fucked it up, or is it poorly written because you didn't want to show a woman with any flaws behind just being quirky, like like the zany Marvel writing that it's gotten incredibly stale, and actually show like emotional character growth or having to to actually show the female character get new abilities and stuff like that, and actually earn that shit instead of just coming out the gate super powerful, because the entire point is to be a super powerful Mary Sue that women in the audience watching this shit, or feminists, I guess, to be more direct, more specific, but that women are intended to project themselves onto, so they make the character just this flawless Mary Sue in that contest, and I don't want to muddy the point up too much, but bring up like Twilight and stuff, because those movies or properties,
Oh
yeah, like
no.
the protagonist in Twilight isn't like powerful or anything, but like she's like super special, and the whole point of that is it's to have a whole bunch of guys fawn over her, so women are supposed to like project themselves onto that character and imagine themselves being fought over by two guys. But of course, I've never seen Twilight for obvious reasons. It would be really weird if I had seen it. But to my understanding, I don't think the main character in that story, like I don't think it's really about her learning or growing anything. Is more about Team Jacob or Team Edward. But that's just like a different type of Mary Sue, is why I bothered to bring that up. But when it comes to like shonen or like action shows, or I mean, I say shonen, but I'm talking about Western entertainment, mainly just like action stuff that happens to evolve women or trying to like subvert it. It's like here's like the female version of this, because we're trying to push action based media towards women and like project women into like our stories, like Captain Marvel and Rey and Star Wars and stuff that is usually associated with men that men like, right? Or women like that, but they like it for different reasons, but they try to homogenize men and women, and don't understand that men and women are gravitate to different pieces of media for different reasons. And yeah, that's kind of why that happens, and why you get these strong female characters that are all flat chested and shit. And if you look at it in a vacuum, it's not particularly bad in and of itself. But if you've seen like the trailer for the new Perfect Dark reboot, where they gave Joanna Dark a man jaw and flattened her titties and everything, and the redesign they did for Lara Croft in the Tomb Raider reboot games, it's all to kind of like homogenize the women, like like get rid of the supposed sexist feminine traits that like the original Lara Croft had, in favor of this anything you can do I can do better type of stuff. Which I'm not necessarily saying the Tomb Raider games did that in terms of the actual narrative. I'm just saying like as far as like how those characters are designed and stuff. I apologize if I rambled too much and that kind of made the point harder to understand. But I was just trying to dig into the nuances of what of talking about, because if my feminist background is good for anything, is that I kind of know what the enemy is already thinking, because I used to be on their team, so I already know what the sisterhood thinks when they do this type of shit, and they put it into politics and media and stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically the reason why that happens. So it's happened so many times in media now. How can I really tell that you just fucked it up the writing and it wasn't on purpose at that point?
Well, just by how it's presented, because if they tried to make Lucy this like perfect Mary Sue or whatever, they would make her like a Black Widow character. She would be able to beat up all the men. She'd be able to handle guns so easily, like because in that first episode, yes, the men in the vault are getting destroyed, but she doesn't save them. Her dad has to come in and save her and drowns the guy at the last minute. And the point of that scene is that the dad has been on the surface, and then when you see the pregnant lady shooting with an SMG, it's like later you realize, oh, she was on the surface too. So that makes sense why her first instinct is to grab a gun and start shooting, because then you remember, like when you played all the Fallout games, there's plenty of women who have guns and they're able to, shoot all the men down and stuff like that. And I still get it. It's like, it's still cringe, but I don't think it was there just to be there, because it leads into something later in the story. She used to be a surface dweller, and so did the dad. So of course their first instinct would would be to I guess destroy them. So yeah, that's why I don't think she's a Mary Sue at all. But you have a different opinion on that.
Well, yeah, it's because like I said, it's more about intent because like you can write anything to like justify anything. If you have a crazy foot fetish, you could always write the story so that the character has to use their feet to activate something, but it becomes an issue of why'd you do that? I know one of my older videos that I got a lot of heat from people for saying this too. I criticized Quiet. It's like is Quiet naked? Like does she have to be half naked because that's how her powers work, or is that how her powers work so she can be half naked? And that's something that I see a lot, in especially in like anime and stuff, where the character he just so happens to power up by drinking breast milk or something weird like that. It has to be something degenerate as shit. Which it'd be ironic or not ironic, hypocritical of me to complain about the degeneracy of all things. But when I'm watching a story, I'm trying to like get immersed in a story and to actually like take it seriously. It kind of just like snaps me back to reality when it's like you put something in there that's obviously meant to be like pandering. And I'm talking about the perspective of like a sexualization because it's like an easy way to try to explain it, but just like replace that with like feminist propaganda, and that kind of becomes the issue of like, why did a pregnant woman have to grab an SMG and do that stuff? Where you could have just had a regular woman do that, or like why did it have to be this character that doesn't really make like it makes sense because like why not? But like that's kind of how they get away with putting a lot of progressive crap into media in the first place, is because, well, why not do that? What do you have a problem with women? And that's why I don't think it's as simple as just complaining about women for the sake of complaining about women. It's like, well, why is a woman in this position in this context of this show in the first place? Like, what you have to look at the broader context of who made it and why they made it that way. And you said earlier that you consider like Kill la Kill to be more of a feminist power fantasy. Well, I might as well just ask you like why, right? Because I know like you said she beats up all the people and stuff, but it's not necessarily about whether or not they win all the fights. Because Korra lost all of her bending in the first season of Legend of Korra, but she got it back by crying really hard and went to Avastar's state and got it back. When that could have been a character arc about her humbling herself and having to like re-earn her bending in a way that was a growth for her character. But that would imply that Korra being mean to people and thinking that she's hot shit is actually bad. So we can't humble this character and
Well,
give her character growth and make her interesting. So let's just give her all of her bending back so we can get straight into season 2 with this dark
well,
Avatar bullshit that oh man. Legend of Korra is such a drop ball. I desperately wanted to like that because I'm such a huge fan of Avatar. But like, it's the difference between a character like how Korra is written compared to someone like Katara, or just like all the other female characters in Avatar in general, who are just basically perfect characters as far as I'm concerned. As far as like a badass female character, I have to have my badass female character that beats up all the guys. I don't care what anybody says. I love Azula. I can fix her. I could fix her.
well, here's my reason for thinking Kill la Kill is more of a feminist kind of like. Well, the feminist thing is more on the side, but it was always more of a story that complains about formalism. Like literally, Ryuko says at the end of the one of the episodes, like you want everybody to be cut from the same cloth. I won't let that happen. But in uh literally in the first episode you see Satsuki, and she's like this guy who rules this this woman who rules over everybody, including all the guys. And when I first saw this series, I was like, "Oh, come on." But then they explain it because she's such this inspirational speaker, right? And clearly women look up to her. Like she was clearly like you said, how you said that like why make the woman pick up the SMG? Well, why make the woman in the story a all-powerful female leader who's able to command these men and command everybody to do what she wants? And it's because she's such a strong speaker. And why choose a woman to do that? It's clearly intentional, yes, but they did something with it which made it not terribly written. In the Fallout show, The blonde chick, yes, they chose it to be a woman, but they explain how she's so up to just kill because she has been on the surface world. So, and she's pregnant. Like, her first instinct is, I gotta protect my child. So, yes, she is gonna pick up a gun and start mowing down raiders because she was a member of the surface world. Now, I'm sure if she was stuck in the vault forever and never had any training with guns at all, yes, that would be very, very strange that she would just be able to shoot down raiders. But we do learn that she was on the surface world, so we do get from that she must have in the past shot a lot of people down. She must have a lot of training with guns and all that. And again, you got the dad who his first instinct is just kill the guy. Like, that's his first instinct, is because these people were on the surface. So no, I don't think, yes, it was intentional to make them women, but they give it something more to not make it seem so asinine and just a feminist powerful thing, because they give the characters more to do. And I don't think Ryuko is that amazing of a character. Like, she's okay, but Satsuki to me was just way better written, of course. And Ryuko has more Mary Sue things going on. Like, when she's in the arena and she's just like, "Then cats make a giant eyeball so we can see everybody on the stage," and they don't do that ever again. And it's like, you just pulled that out of your ass. There was no implication that Sincats had that ability to do that, but whatever. And there's just more moments where it seems like she just pulls stuff out of her ass. But I think that giant eyeball thing was when I was like, oh, come on. But my main thing is that I don't think these characters, yes, they're women and they chose them to be women, but they have something going on that explains why they're strong. You know what? That's my point. You can make a strong female character if you give them a reason why they're strong and it makes sense. So that's my thing. That's my reasoning.
Yeah, because like I was alluding to before, like they can make up whatever reasoning they want to like include something into a story. Because like let's say the pregnant vault driller chick, she didn't live on the surface or anything, and she just happened to be like really good with guns, and that was just the twist, that she was just good with guns. You could argue that it didn't make any sense, but that doesn't necessarily make it political, right? All the political leaning stuff is implied due to the, I guess, the social climate, for lack of better words, surrounding art critique, critique of stories and YouTube essays and stuff. It revolves around it. It exists outside of the story itself. So, like the way Kill la Kill is written, or any type of story, Soul Eater, anything, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with politics, but you could project politics onto it. So, when talking about the Fallout show, we talk about the politics in the show and the people that wrote it and why they did it. Anything. It's easy to talk about it when you know who's behind it, but let's say for the sake of argument that we don't know who the writers are and we don't know about the JQ and all the other kind of stuff. We don't know there's some kind of like conspiracy behind how modern television is written. It's very easy to take that and simply dismiss it as a writing mistake or just how it is, and not really question it too much, right? Like, oh well, that's not realistic because women aren't fighters and stuff in real life, so what does it matter? That's often why the retort to this claim is usually something along the lines of, it's fictional, so it doesn't have to make any sense, or it's a fictional universe, or why are you complaining? But when people, like Synth, usually complain about this type of stuff, it's usually based around the implications of a work and not necessarily the work in and of itself. And because Synth's content, especially now, just preaches to a choir and dog whistles a specific point, there's no nuance given to explain what that means. So it kind of works under the pretense that you already know what he's talking about, but not necessarily why that's true. So when people disagree with him on, the implications, like, oh, Freya in God of War Ragnarok is a Mary Sue. I personally don't consider the character to be a Mary Sue. Ironically enough, she's the only character in new God of War I actually kind of find to be interesting because of, her story having some actual accuracy to the Norse mythology version of that, specific character and the parallels between her story and the similarities it has to Kratos' story, that that Freya is almost like a reflection of Kratos himself from the past, in her motivation to kill Kratos is revenge for the death of her son. So all of that makes sense, right? But the Mary Sue claims all come from the fact that Freya is able to compete with Kratos at all, which if you think about it from a purely like mimetic sense, maybe mimetic is the wrong word, but like just in terms of like lore, right? It's like it doesn't make that much sense to complain about it because Freya is still a god, right? So she wouldn't exactly be unable to take on a demigod, and we have seen females beat the shit out of Kratos before in the original series, like the Fates, or is it Megara or whatever, the big octopus dragon chick from Ascension. She was beating the shit out of Kratos, and that she was the final boss of that game. Kratos even had to fight Persephone. Persephone could hold her own, or else that wouldn't have been a boss fight. I mean, Kratos won, but the point is that Persephone was capable of fighting, so she could probably kill a dude if she if like Kratos is Kratos, right? So of course Kratos can keep up with her, but Kratos also killed Zeus, so that's not really saying. That says more about Kratos than anything. Not necessarily that the women are weak. There's a lot of powerful women throughout the God of War series. So why is Freya in particular a problem for so many people? It kind of boils down to the type of writing, who wrote it, and why. And honestly, if you ask me, I think a lot of it kind of boils down to an issue of projection. Oh man, the Sim cells are gonna fry me on a stick for this one. But yeah, I honestly do feel like a lot of it comes down to an assumption of how or why something is written, because of more of sins of the mother type of writing issues. Like, well, this character was a Mary Sue, and that character in the last 10 years was a Mary Sue, and there were 10 other characters with bows and arrows that came out just last week. All these strong women that just got through, coming out the last week or so. So it's like this has to be the same thing. So no one really considers the nuances of like Faith from Mirror's Edge, or how Laura is written in the new Tomb Raider lore, or anything like that, because we all kind of know why they write Western stories like that, and that's why we have to gear ourselves up for ugly Jean Grey, and we already had Manjaw Mary Jane. Why is it that Mary Jane can just taser people left and right, and we have to tolerate that? And her whole spiel about how Peter's such a bad boyfriend. Like, what is this feminist nonsense in the story? So yeah, unless you make it a point to make your videos like center them around that as a talking point, like talking about how female characters are written in stories and the nuances that would establish someone as being a Mary Sue, or the full context of what it means for a character to even be a Mary Sue, then a lot of it is going to boil down to rhetoric. I guess that's more or less of my way of saying that I kind of like see where you're coming from with like saying that Lucy isn't exactly a Mary Sue character, but my, I guess for lack of better words, counter to that argument is that when it comes to that character, I kind of already know why they did it. So it's like, yeah, if I look at it in and of itself, they didn't really do anything wrong, but I can make the same argument for Freya, for Frey, for Ray, for Faith, for new Laura, for you could probably do that for Jonah Dark in the new Jonah Dark Perfect Dark game when that comes out. Yeah, you can always just ignore all the feminist undertones, like the progressive reasoning that's pushing this shit in media in the first place, and just review them all separately as their own thing. But like that's kind of the point. There's always an explanation given, and sometimes there's no real need to really give an explanation. Like the last thing I'll say for this, and this is probably the most controversial thing in the whole video right now, now that I think about it. Is Abby a Mary Sue? Well, really ask yourself the tough question. If someone killed your father and you want to get revenge on them, wouldn't you train your ass off and scarf down protein powder to get bulked up enough to beat the ever-loving shit out of them? Now, the question becomes whether or not women are capable of getting muscles like that. But so much of the rhetoric around Abby was like, oh, it's bad for women that have muscles, and Abby is trans even though she's not trans. And some people even are arguing that the voice actress is trans when the voice actress, that's the same woman who does Rise in Persona. You're saying that Rise's voice actress is trans now? What? Laura Bailey is trans? Okay, maybe because she voiced Kid Trunks, right? But it's like, dude. So when I notice when it comes to a lot of chud circles is that there's a lot of assumption being made, but without really going into the nitty gritty of the actual analytics of what's actually happening in the story and what's motivating those story elements being in there in the first place. So that's not necessarily me saying that Synth is just wrong, was actually wrong the whole time, but Synth is not the type of person who's going to sit there and actually talk to you about the nuances of how a story is written. I'm not really sure his media literacy is up to the task of doing that. That doesn't necessarily make him a bad YouTuber, but he's not that guy. Like, you don't go to Synthetic Man to and then ask like 1 2 hour long Joseph Anderson video, please. Like, he doesn't make that type of content. So he wouldn't be the type of person to make that type of video. But, the point is what it is. Like, you can say that Abby is a Mary Sue because she beats the ever loving shit out of Joel with a baseball bat. But at the end of the day, most people were just mad that, this big, angry, quote unquote, trans woman beat the ever living shit out of their beloved Joel. And my conversations with Last of Us fans would lead me to believe that the average person doesn't have the media literacy to understand that Joel was not the good guy in that story. I can't believe I'm saying that, but like that's reality of it. Like, people don't get that was a man versus nature story, and that Joel was not a black and white character, and that's what made him a good character, is that he wasn't some goody two shoes superhero character. He was a man who lost his daughter and lost his entire life, and was a jaded man, and this was like his, he did a lot of terrible things to make ends meet. And at the end of the day, he killed an innocent man because he didn't want to lose his daughter. Or maybe you could say innocent in air quotes, but they tried to save the world by whipping this woman's brains out. So, like, was he did evil? It's not evil. It's like, because the nuance of the morality is based on the perspective of who you're talking about in the context of The Last of Us. Like, from Joel's perspective, they're killing his surrogate daughter. From their perspective, they're stopping them from possibly saving the world from this horrible infection. But there's no, like, Last of Us is not a story about cops and robbers or cowboys versus Indians, but people talk about it like it is. That's kind of why when the Last of Us 2 controversy happened, I understood what it meant and while it was happening, but at the same time, I was actually one of the few people getting on people's cases about just exaggerating shit. That there's truth to the demoralization. I think there's a point to be made about demoralizing art, which is kind of why I'm actually more critical of Last of Us 2 now than I was when it originally came out. But I still think that there's a point to be made that because some Jew wants to tell a story about moral ambiguity does not automatically make it bad, and all because a woman worked out enough to get a guy off guard and beat the living shit out of him with a baseball bat is not, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything feminist behind it. But right, and I'm repeating myself, but I just want to emphasize the overall point that I'm trying to address here is that the problem boils down to, why did they do it? Why did this Jew write this story? Why is this a story? And a lot of it boils down to political intent. And if you just subtract the political undertones from any type of analysis on any type of story, all of a sudden, all this progressive shit kind of magically goes away when you're not talking about the Great Replacement. A lot of it is projected onto the story. But the story, just the fact that it's a fictional story in and of itself, the way it is written, you can't like look at that story and say that, oh, the reason they don't want you shooting at the synagogue up in Last of Us 2 is because it's like pro-Jewish or something. Like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you can always feign ignorance in a fictional story when you wrote something that is blatant politically charged in the real world context by just saying, well, it's just a video game, it's just a movie, it's just an anime. Why are you making all these real world allegations and stuff, like these real world allegories, when it's like this movie or something that you made this piece of art but you're a human being who exists in the real world with the rest of us. Obviously, some of that is going to play into the decisions that you're making in the media that we're expected to consume, in the ideas that is meant to reinforce. A lot of the problem isn't necessarily like, oh, I watched the feminist propaganda movie and now I've been brainwashed. It's more about reinforcing certain ideas. So the ideas that you were trying to reinforce and hammer into our skulls through this media, why did you do that? And that's kind of what the conversation is actually about. It's not really the story in and of itself, if that makes sense. So I get what you're saying about Lucy and everything. It's just that the Fallout show doesn't exist in a world where there aren't a whole bunch of other politically charged, bastardized adaptations of movies and video games circling around it. You know, like the Halo show happened, the Resident Evil show happened. So why did this show happen? And I think that's why people reacted the way that they did, and why it's like, they called you woke for defending it, because it's like, why aren't you seeing all this political stuff that they put into the show? But it sounds like you're talking more about, like, you're meeting it the show halfway and trying to review it on its own terms as its own thing, but not inside the context of other politically charged media. And I think that's why people got on you about it, you being woke and the show being woke, because you were looking at the show in its own context with its own bubble, and not based on everything around it. I think that's where that came from.
Well, I look at shows and games like that all the time because I try to separate. I mean, I know sometimes it can't be separated from the artist. Last was part two because he directly put a synagogue in there and he made a Jewish character, and I'm just like, oh god, come on, man.
Yeah, like
And then
it's
he
pretty obvious at
made,
that point.
and
Like,
then he, and then he
guy.
made that self-insert character Manny, and I'm just like, okay, like whatever. But the Fallout show, like I get it from your angle, but at the same time, you could say that about everything. Like again, why in Kill la Kill are the main characters women that are like these strong, powerful people? Why in Soul Eater did they make the main character a woman? Like it was a direct creative decision, and like I just don't like that mindset that people go into being like, oh, it's a woman, so there has to be some deep conspiracy Illuminati thing that happened, and it's like, I mean, you can think that way, but then why certain media you like that has strong women in it don't count? And I think it is just the writing. I think if the writing isn't there, people just automatically think that it's like, oh, it had a woke agenda behind it because the writing is so bad or something like that, and people can't really ignore it. And I'm not saying the Fallout show doesn't have anything woke in it. Like I never said that. Again, the trans character just shows up, and what was their name? I don't even remember if it had a name, but um, again, I think it's just the writing that's the problem. It the Fallout show again. I dropped it after like 5 episodes because it was just some schlocky shit, and my boyfriend likes it, which is kind of weird, but he likes it. He's a Fallout fan, so of course he's gonna like it. He saw the NCR Ranger armor, and he was like, "Oh my god, I love it!" Show it's got the NCR Ranger armor. I'm just like Jesus.
And you said
So
you watched it, right?
yeah, I watched 5 episodes and I dropped it, and then I just looked up what happens in it, and I just watched other videos because I didn't care enough to watch it. But then he watched all of it, so he told me what happened and all that, and I just had no interest going back to it. I was just like, oh, this sounds so boring. Like I just watched the first 5 episodes and it's not interesting to me. Like I've seen these characters and this type of plot done so many times in better pieces of media, Like I don't know. Again, I don't care about any of the characters. Why did they have to do it 15 years after New Vegas? We could have had a show where it takes place like 2 years afterwards and we see our boy Joshua and Arcade and Kaiser and like all these other characters that I like a lot. Fuck, do what the fan fiction did. Make it take place when the Legion took over. That would be more interesting. I don't know. Like I just and then you figure out Shady Sands got nuked or something and I was like, "Oh, it just this show, dude." And I there's so much possibilities it could have had because it takes place after New Vegas and I threw all of that away. So knowing that this takes place 15 years after New Vegas, that means you're not going to see any of the characters you grew to love in the show. They're just going to be these new characters you don't care about, and I have no interest in that at all. So, yeah, the show doesn't interest me at all, and then people started saying it was woke, and I was like, I mean, I kind of agree, but it's not as woke as other shows. So just like, and I didn't care enough, I guess, because I dropped it. So I was like, I think the show is just boring. It's just schlock. I think, and if it didn't have the Fallout tag to it, nobody would have cared about it. But is there anything else you want to talk about? Because it's a kind of got everything I needed out of me.
Oh yeah, so I noticed too. So like, because I remember in your the video, the last video it made, you had said that you like made it sound like you didn't actually watch the show, but just like watch like reviews or something, like people talk about the show. So we got
No, I
clarification that that's kind of like a half truth. It's like you watched it, but you stopped watching it, and then you finished like learning more about what happened in the show, like through other outlets, basically.
yeah, because I didn't want to sit through like 40 minutes of bullshit that I didn't care about. And again, he watched all of it and he told me what happened and stuff like that. So that's how I knew what happened in it. And then everything he was telling me, it didn't make me more interested because again, I don't care about any of the characters. I and the setting they had was very boring. Like I don't care about where they're at. I want to see New Vegas. And the fact that the NCR kind of got nuked or something like that, and I'm just like, oh come on, like you're destroying everything that I actually wanted to see in this show because it takes place after New Vegas, and I was so freaking angry about that. So I just dropped it, and I didn't care about it, and I didn't think I would care about it. I usually don't care about game adaptations to shows usually because they're not good. So I think the only good one is the Halo show. Not the live action one, the anime that was made out of it. That's probably the only one I enjoyed. Was that Halo anime? That was pretty good. It was pretty decent.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
this definitely has been a very good conversation. I like the fact that the conversation went to a positive direction because that was my intent. I didn't really know how things were going to go out because we never really got to hear more about your more in-depth thought on things. That's kind of what I would like to see more from you in the future. If you, as far as like your content is concerned, do you have any particular like ideas for what content you want to start producing in the future?
Yeah, mostly just reaction videos and cigarette rant videos. Like that's just kind of going to be like if something if inspiration comes by, then I'll make like a rant video about something if the inspiration is there because I I don't think other than my synthetic man videos, I don't think really anyone else liked what my content was because it wasn't super well edited or anything. I didn't care enough to put a lot of editing in it, and I wasn't a review channel of games. I just kind of gave my thoughts and opinions. No one really likes that. They want you to go in more depth about it. So when I made my new channel, I was like, well, what can I do that I can rant about something, but it's acceptable not to edit? So I was like, reaction videos. Yeah, that's where we are now. So yeah, it's a way for me to rant about something without having to edit very much. And cigarette rant videos is just another thing where I was like, if there's something that's bothering me, or maybe there's nothing to react to, I'll make like a rant video about something. But that's pretty much all I can say right now where my content's going, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, not to mansplain or anything like a massive, but
Uh-oh.
but I mean, like you can do whatever you want because like that's your channel, so no one should have the power to dictate to you like what you should or shouldn't be doing. But I honestly feel like you might have more success telling more like don't tell your business, but more personal stories, like having more of your actual a pin on something, because I know I said the previous videos you did and stuff were boring, and I'm not gonna be a pussy about it. I'm gonna stand by what I said, right? Because I said that for a reason, and it's not because, oh, Anna Waifu's a terrible person, man, women bad. It's like, I feel like we don't really get to know, like, the real you when you produce content, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. Where it's like, I can't tell, like, is this being genuine? Is this like a persona? And and when you offered to do the Discord call, it's like, oh shit, this is our opportunity to get to know more of, like, who Anna really is, like the real Anna, right? This is going to be the make it or break it moment as far as, like, how this woman is perceived in amongst the synth community and stuff. So, like, I feel like you're owed the opportunity to be given a platform to really, like, correct any misconceptions people have about you and your content and your motivations, why you do X, Y, and Z, and just hear more about your story. And when I do, because I do watch female YouTubers, I know that might sound crazy. It's like the synth cell actually watches, like, Hazu Neutral, or like the Hazu reviews and stuff, or Super Butter Buns. I used to watch her. I only stopped watching her because of just my changing in interest, not necessarily anything wrong with her. And she's a gay woman, so I'm watching gay women talk about video games and stuff. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like that's going to be more crazy. It's more like, this video exposed Asuka more than it exposed Anna than anything else. But yeah, that's what I would suggest. I mean, it's just a suggestion. You shouldn't have to feel pressured or forced to do anything, because I feel like just you doing reaction videos, unless you, like, really have a lot to say to go in depth on something, isn't really going to take off too well. Like, most of the novelty is going to revolve around you being a woman, because a woman talking about nerd shit. Oh my god, women never talk about nerd stuff. And that's one more thing I wanted to ask you too before we start closing things out here. But as far as, like, suggestions are concerned, I really think what we need when it comes to, like, media, like YouTube critics and stuff like that, is that we really need a woman's touch when it comes to the, I guess, right leaning talking points or something. It's hard for me to really say that in a non cringe way, but it's like, like how Synthetic Man, is Synthetic Man, but, like, when are we gonna get a synthetic woman? It always feels like the men are always the one that starts something, and then women come in and ride on their coattails. And since you made the whole simp synth simping thing, like, your whole identity, it's like, yeah, your channel was called Anna Waifu, but it was really about Synthetic Man. People are following you and stuff. They're watching your content for a Synthetic Man, but they're not doing it for you. And I think more of your content should revolve around yourself and your opinions on something. Like, you're obviously, you're a Coraline fan. I recognize those button eyes anywhere. You can't tell me you're not a Coraline fan. Don't lie about it. So, like,
That's actually a misconception. It was actually based off of a game called Identity 5 that have the button eyes. That's where I got the inspiration from. And that's where the hair and stuff, that's where I got it from. Because, so the idea of the character being a doll was that um, she kept her deep self hidden away from everybody. It just tried to, like, she tried to look human or something, and she, on her downtime, makes synthetic man dolls because she's a fucking crazy bitch. She was like, that was really the whole thing, and I was like, it's supposed to be like a mimetic thing where I didn't want to really, I guess, put my super real self out there, because if I put my super real self out there, I would look like a misandry to most people, and I would not. I would think most of my audience were not Christian people, and like I just didn't want to. I don't think most of them are pro-life either, and so I didn't really want to. I didn't want to push a lot of my political beliefs, as funny as that sounds. So I made her a doll because I was like, it was supposed to be like this mimetic kind of thing, and it's like dolls are creepy. She's a creepy bitch. She's always making synth dolls in her spare time. She's she's nuts. She's a simp. She has a poster of him in her wall and a whole shrine and everything. So, which I don't anymore. Oops, did I say that? Just kidding. I'm kidding. I don't have a synthetic menstruation in my room. Just kidding.
Oh
I
man.
swear. I swear.
I mean, it's funny as that is and all, but I think in the grand scheme of things, you would benefit more. You know, you don't have to like tell everybody all your own business, but it's like I guess as an example, right? Because you talked about why you think Kill a Kill is actually a feminist power fantasy. Like, what about a video about why Kill a Kill is a feminist power fantasy from your perspective, adding like what you think about this story or what you think about these characters or certain trends and stuff. But like, I guess what I'm trying to suggest to you is not only just shy away from like writing on synth, but like make your channel more about you. I mean, you can still do reaction videos. I mean, I did a reaction video to you, and I'm telling you not to do reaction videos. That's like peak hypocrisy. I'm just saying, like, like don't be too afraid to express more of yourself because I honestly feel like when it comes to women in gaming, and this is another thing I want to ask you too, is that I think part of the problem is for a lot of people it's just a lack of authenticity. People see a woman get on stage and just say what everyone wants to hear, and no one really knows if they can trust them or not because so many women in the past have effectively been snakes and succubi. So how do you distinguish yourself from the rest of the pack that make you look bad by guilt by association? And I think just being more open and transparent about your intents and beliefs would be a easier way to distinguish yourself from other would-be gamer girl bathwater sellers, and have more people grow to respect you more because they'll look at you and be like, oh yeah, she's actually the real deal because she did this video or said that thing, and now we have a more of an idea of who you actually are as a person, which will hopefully calm down a lot of the snake accusations and all the other kind of things because I went into the conversation having no idea how it was going to go, but thankfully someone like me was even there to offer you a platform to try to allow you to say that. This easily could have been some asshole trying to set you up to look like shit, or getting you on a Discord call just to yell at you, which that would make me look bad if that's what I had the intention of doing. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there needed to be some kind of level playing field where you are allowed to actually have that moment and set the record straight. And I think in the future, if you made more content around you and your genuine beliefs in something, and not just a quirky synthetic man reaction thing, or I'm going to react to this guy's content but not really add anything, you should try to add more to the discussion. And it sounds like it's not because you don't have anything to say. It sounds like it might be because you don't feel comfortable saying anything. Am I interpreting that correctly?
I kind of I the thing I'm worried about is if I put my true beliefs out there is A, I'll get deplatformed because no one likes right wingers on the platform. And two, it's just that community is coming back to my circle and I'm just like, oh no, like I mean, I'm glad I'm getting my old viewers back, but at the same time, I guess I'm just worried about, because I even said in my video, I'm not going to do any synthetic man videos. Like, that's not going to happen for probably a very long time. I don't know. Um, like if the community just chills out and if the inspiration comes back, like maybe if he makes a extremely special video that makes me fall in love with him even more than like I did before, maybe I'll start talking about him again. But I even said that that's the only video I'm ever going to talk about him on this channel because I don't want it to seem like I am riding his coattail. And I wasn't really riding his coattail in the beginning. Like, why would you ride somebody that is hated by a lot of people? It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to get a lot of attention from that, really. And the reason I talked about him so much was because I was so passionate about him, because he came at a time in my life where, like Elvis, I was very depressed and everything, and I told a lot of people this, where I felt like ending my life, and because my life was so horrible at that time, And then I found Synthetic Man, and he was like this, like the boy next door who talked about video games, and then you start to know more about him, and he was like he was so cool and funny and everything, and then he was kind of cute, kind of attractive guy talking about video games, and it was like he had this thing about him where he seemed really honest, and he wasn't like the act man or all these corporate shills. And then 3 years later, he kind of turned shilly. If you think about it, he's trying to do everything he can to please his audience. Everything's got to be woke, everything's got to be horrible. Uh, he's a Fuda man, so clearly he wasn't as right winged as he made himself look. Which whatever floats his boat, but I don't know why he didn't expect people to be angry with him. But whatever, that's why you shouldn't idolize YouTubers, I guess, because you never know what they're hiding. You never know how they'll turn out. So, and I always said this: I will never leave Synthetic Man unless he done something so terrible. Like if he was like a pedo or something, like he would have to do something really bad for me to completely leave his channel. Like it would have to be horrible because like he will always be inspiration to me, and I know this sounds frick corny as hell, but he will always be a part of me, I guess, because he just came at a time in my life where he saved me in a way. So it's kind of hard to just let that go, especially when there's not a lot of people like him on YouTube, which is a shame. There's not a lot of chuds on YouTube that get kind of popular. So, but that's where I'm gonna leave it. So if you wanna start signing off, we can, because I gotta go eat and I gotta go piss really bad.
I do have to piss as well. But so I guess the last thing I'll ask you, I don't want you to piss yourself. I don't know if you might be up for a second conversation. I asked you about your thoughts about women in video games and thoughts, but I feel like I kind of already know what you're probably going to say anyway. But so last thing for the synth cells confirmation, right? Did synth really stop you from 41% squatting yourself?
What? What does that mean? I'm
40,
not. Comp-
you know that new DC game that came out. Yeah, did he really stop you from 41% squatting yourself?
uh, yeah, he did.
I don't understand. And look, I'm not trying to get all your personal business out there because I don't want you, to say something that you regret. But it's like that's just kind of strange to me that a YouTuber making a JQ statements and dog whistling stopped you from joining the 41%. Like that's all it took.
Oh, I will say this too. His voice. Oh my god, his voice. Like when I first heard it, I actually melted. I was like, oh my god. I actually thought he was black at first too, until he did his face reveal. I
Voice.
remember I thought he was black. But his voice is so velvety, especially when he talked like in a lower voice. Like his voice was very low when he just started YouTube, and I was like, "Oh my god, his voice." I remember just listening to him one time for ASMR when I was doing like a school homework at one point. I was like, "Oh my god." So,
My God, that's really odd. So
you're
what if I were
hey.
just talking to like a really deep voice or something while talking about video games? Would that make me better than synth?
No, you don't have that. You don't have the white guy velvety thing going on. Sorry.
Oh, I'm a voice cell. Confirmed. All right. Oscar cells, it's been confirmed. Oscar cells lose. Oh, I'm a voice cell. She said herself. All right. Well, there it is. GG's, guys. But all right, I don't want to keep you because I got to take a piss too. But this has definitely been a pretty positive experience, and hopefully this will get you in some good graces with some of your critics, and we'll see how it goes.
All right. See you later, man. Thanks for the whole thing.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
All right, Sim Cells, I don't know about you, but and it's pretty cool by my standards. I say that was a pretty positive conversation. You guys can tell me what your interpretation of that was, but hopefully you guys aren't disappointed. I know a lot of you were thinking that there will be blood. You're asking for her head on a pike, but had no intention of just destroying this woman. Because, I honestly do think it's an issue of transparency and trust among people. And there's a couple of questions that I didn't really get around to, mainly about of I wanted to see if I can get a more in depth thought of what she thought about like SS Sniper Wolf and stuff, and how they make other women in gaming culture and gaming spaces look. But that has a lot to do with my own rambling. I could have just asked the question more directly, but I wanted to be a more organic conversation. Didn't want to just be like, no, press you down. I want you to answer this specific question. I have this question. I want it to be more like a conversation and not like a drill sergeant kind of like it was a conversation, not meant to be like an interrogation. So I don't know if she might be up for a round two where we talk more about that. I think she might be good for like podcast material and stuff. She said some pretty interesting things, especially earlier on in the conversations and stuff. I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, my final verdict from Asuka Chan herself, I think Anna is pretty cool, and that the only thing she really needs to work on is her social skills, like she admitted to. And I would like to see more videos from her in the future, really going more in depth about her perspective on certain things. But and there may be a chance we aren't gonna get that. Like I suggested that. Like I kind of feel like she sounds like she's a little hesitant to do that because she doesn't want to get deplatformed or anything. But I mean, Synth is over here talking about Jews and miscegenation. He's still on YouTube. I don't really think that's an excuse. I just think that would be interesting, really interesting to get a woman's point of view on some things. But yeah, I'll see about uploading this today. We're about the 3:40 minute mark. I think 3.5 hours is more than enough. I gotta desperately take a piss. All right, those are my final thoughts on Anna Waifu. See you in the next one, guys.